I've heard of these. It's horrible. I like
They're insane.
the grimdark mindset of Warhammer is very fun to me. Like I'm just like, this is great because there is no good guys. Then again, you'll hear who my favorite guys are. And
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm on two different ends of the spectrum, but I say let's just get freaking started since we're already in it.
Yeah.
Hello, no, I'll host this. Hello, everyone. This is the long planned Warhammer episode that we were supposed to record earlier, but I got too lost in other stuff. Um, Space Marines 2 being at an all-time high, patches, breaking the game, all that stuff. Today we have our Warhammer expert, competitor, top 8 qualifier at your thing. Like, what happened there? And like, you got like second place in like the best painted set. Like, what are all your accolades? Panic.
With the accolades. I mean, I have one best painted at one small tournament, and then I've like placed in
Nice.
the finals of best painted at this big German tournament,
No kidding.
and then like I've come second in another tournament. I've never won a big tournament, but I've come second twice, so that's nice.
That's so. When you say small and big tourneys, like how much we're talking here? Because for me, when I do like regional tourneys, big to me is like 1,000 players.
Right.
Yeah,
For a small tournament, we're usually talking like 30 or less people.
makes sense. Yeah, each game is like
'Cause it-
what 2 hours?
Each game, no, three and a half.
Bro, dude, that's what drives me nuts. Dude, I'm trying to step away from One Piece, and like, dude, doing a full tourney is like 3 hours, and like my head hurts at the end, and I'm just like playing like garbage.
Yeah.
You're telling me round one's 3 hours? You're like sick, dude. I'm just like,
Yeah. And then you go do it for 4 days.
what dude? I can't be there the next day, dude. My weekends are packed. It's like,
No, I had to sit out some games too, because that was fucking brutal.
so is that like,
Like, I
is
did-
that like a round loss if you have to sit out, or like there's no mulligans?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
for sure.
It's it was 2 day singles tournament where you just play on your own and it's random who you get paired against.
Nice, yeah.
I did all 5 of those. That was fine. And then there's a team tournament, which I think they should have started with team, just because then you're more well rested. Because then you're like 5 people and you have to do like a whole pairings process. But I had to sit out some of those. I was like, I got physically ill on day
Oh
3.
my
I was so tired. That was like after 6 games over 2 days. I had to sit out 2 games on Saturday, and then I came back Sunday.
So you didn't. So you were paired with a partner, and you told your partner like, "Hey, like I'm so sorry, like I gotta sit out, like repair."
No, for
me."
those 2 games, the first one it was like, yeah, just one of our guys won't be playing. And then it's like auto. There's like a default score if
Sure.
a party is missing. What's funny is that for the 3rd game, they got a replacement for me who did worse than the default score you get for not showing up.
Dude, you could have just sat.
They would have done better if they had just not found another guy.
That's horrible. How do you do
So he-
worse? You just
so
sent your
he-
guys and gave them points. Like, what are you doing, dude?
Kinda. He lost as bad as you could have. He borrowed my army and then he just
Wow, you could do
shat
that.
the
That's-
bed. But very nice of him to step up. They couldn't have known that.
Right.
But-
right. I assume that's like not a common thing to be like, hey, can I borrow your army, or like, hey, can I use your dice, kind of thing. I feel like that's a little.
I mean, it depends. I like using my own dice, and I like my opponent using their own dice. But if it's
Interesting.
like orcs and they're rolling 100 attacks or whatever, now you
I-
have to make 80 saves, and they're already there in the dice box. You might as well pick up those 80 instead of finding your own.
Right. Yeah. So I actually watched an orc battle last night. I've been watching like play tabletop. It was like
Right.
it was like orcs versus Imperium kind of thing. And now yeah, I was just like listening in the background, just like playing stuff. And then the dude fired some sort of like orc like machine. Like the thing like took half the board. I hear a. I look at the screen, dude. He had like 50 dice in the board, and I was like, "What the hell kind of attack was that?"
Yeah, that's gotta be a stomper. That thing has so many guns.
Yeah, and like they gave it like a weird name, but like it was like a command point where he like, oh, I'm gonna summon the big boy, and then he had to scoot all his units forward and put it on there, and I was like, Jesus! And then his first attack was like so many dice, and I was like,
but it's like
what the
orcs are a crazy faction. They're the faction you play if you want to roll a bajillion dice.
I heard that they're the RNG gods. The RNG is just like F it, roll as much.
Because in shooting, they hit horribly because they're like brutes. It's like they don't shoot.
It's like 5.
But they all have
5 and up or something like that. It's like
5 or higher.
Okay.
In a game where everything is done on 6-sided dice.
That's terrible.
So let's say you have 20 dudes and they all have a gun with 3 shots. That's 60 shots. On 5 ups, a third will hit, and then they also have 2 wound. But usually they will have some... Like, their best shots get a +1 to hit if they stand still or whatever, and they're damage 2 per shot. But they still only hit on 5s. So there are these crazy...
Isn't 6 like double damage or something like that? Like if you get a
6... Like... 6 trigger is a critical hit, and some weapons don't have any abilities. Others have like an extra hit on a 6, or they have your wound automatically, like you skip the next rolling step.
Right.
Certain weapons will have keywords that mean that they do things on a 6. Most don't.
Okay.
But orcs have that a lot. It used to be that in I think 8th edition. We're in 10th edition right now. In 8th edition, they just had a universal rule that all 6s were, you got to shoot again.
Oh no! And so
you just slapped as many bullshit rifles you could in your army, and just you're not gonna hit a lot, but you're gonna hit more than you think. And your rocket launcher might just get an extra rocket. So you just want to strap as many random bullshit guns to your vehicles or guys as you can, because. Like, your helicopter could hit nothing, or it could hit them, like, 5 times.
Right. It's literally like, okay, like, if I know I'm going to miss, I'm going to shoot a lot. One of these are going to hit. And when it hits, it's like, okay, like, we got them, boys.
And shooting is entirely, like, a bonus for orcs. What they really want to do is hit you hard.
Charge.
Because then they run in with 20 guys who all have, I think, 4 attacks, and they get an extra in the turn where they use their wah. So that's 100 attacks.
Jesus.
And some of them, and they'll generate an extra on a 6, and you can spend the command point so it's on a 5 or a 6. And you can have a guy in your squad that makes you hit 1 better, and you can probably also re-roll it, and suddenly your 100 attacks becomes 140 hits.
That's like the longest turn of all time. No wonder you guys' games take 3 hours. Because like I noticed, like, when I'm watching some of these games, each turn, it's like a big deal. Like, all right, here's turn 2, your side, right? I'm just like...
Yeah, turn 2 and 3 usually take for fucking ever. Turn 1 is like, you're setting up.
Yeah.
Turn 4 and 5, nothing is alive, and you're just scoring points.
Yeah. It's like, okay, now that we
2 and 3 is when you break your opponent's back, or you get yours broken because you fucked up.
Okay, true. Okay, so for you, what's the longest game you've ever been locked into?
Oh, well, I don't think that counts. This place I used to play at shut down on Sunday, and we did a 6-hour game. And we didn't finish.
Okay.
So we both brought armies. This is like a different system. It's Age of Sigmar, which is also Warhammer, but it's like fantasy, and the rules are a little different, but mostly similar. So we brought 7,000 point armies. Usually you bring 2,000, so it's like 3.5 times as much as usual.
So, in connection with that, sorry to interrupt, the point system. So, is that just agreed upon by both sides? Because I noticed that there's different point battles.
You agree. If it's just a normal pickup game, you agree beforehand. If it's a tournament, it's almost always 2,000.
Okay, so you need to have...
That's your budget to build an army. Every model or unit has a points cost.
Okay, so you need to build enough to reach the 2,000 points, but
Yes.
you could build your army the way you want to.
Yeah.
I could just
You
have,
could build
all foot
and
soldiers, and then like
you could build an orc army that are 2 of the big stompy things, but
And
that's
that's it.
1,600 points. Now you only have 400 to get stuff to score.
right,
Really.
or like control
It's like-
points and stuff like that.
Because you have to stand on objectives to hold them.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
And you draw like random missions every turn that you have to accomplish.
Right, and those will give you advantage when you complete those missions. Like, okay, you get a victory point for that assassination.
Yeah, you get
whatever.
a certain amount of points for doing, like, selecting a unit to not shoot and stand in a ruin. Now you get 2 points. If you do it in your opponent's zone, you get 4. Stuff like that.
Interesting. So
And
you basically
for that
need to
you need,
tailor
and for
your
that you
army.
need like bullshit cheap throwaway stuff that's fast, or it can teleport, or it can arrive anywhere it wants. The
Damn.
stompers are good at killing stuff, but you don't want them to stand on the thing and not shoot, because that's their entire job.
Right, and like moving him in the middle of the board, I assume they're like, oh, nice, look at this big target. We get attacked from all sides for one whole turn.
Oh, if they have a special rule called towering, where if you can basically if they can see you, you can see it. It's like
Oh, yeah. Okay.
they tow into a ruin and now they're visible from anywhere. And also they can see you from anywhere.
Interesting. But okay, going back to the longest game, so you guys were at what, more than 2,000 points?
There are 7,000,
What the?
and we played till turn 4, and that took 6.5 hours.
What, dude? So the one thing I'm
And
really grateful about your guys' gameplay is that there's at least enough interaction during another person's turn. Because
Yeah.
I come from the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where like turn 1, if my opponent goes, he will beat me in one turn and I have no way to interact.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
That
just beat me.
I mean, that is possible to happen in 40k, depending on what army you're fighting. Some armies are very fast and will just fight you turn 1 if you let them. So
Right.
you have to not let them. 40k can be very uninteractive. Some armies only shoot, like the one I think you'd like, Tau, which are like big mecha suits. They don't fight. They are suck in melee, but they love shooting at you. So they're just gonna hide and blast you, and there's nothing you can really do except hide in return. Like, try not to be seen.
Oh, man.
Other armies,
That's annoying, man. I don't want to do that.
anything that charges you gets to fight you before you fight it.
Right.
So in like a full melee army, if they have their go turn and they just charge all their units at you, you just don't get to do anything. You just die.
Oh, no.
Where Age of Sigmar, which is the fantasy version, is a lot more interactive. There's less shooting in it overall, but in melee you take turns fighting no matter how many things charged. So the active player chooses first, and then you go back and forth. So if you just charge your whole army, you have to be very mindful that your opponent gets to fight before you pick your second thing.
Right. I mean that's what I like about the shooting phase. It's like, okay, I get to interact in some shape or form to see whether or not my guys survive, whether or not my guys. The morale turn is really funny to me. The Tyranids, they just run away. Like, oh god, too many people died. We're out of here. I'd be so pissed if that happened. Like, rad.
Like,
These
we're
guys can't
going
hold point. Damn
very
it.
nitty gritty on the mechanics of the tabletop game, and maybe we
True.
should save that a bit.
True. Okay. So going to the top of the list, how did you get into Warhammer? Because I'm getting into it as we speak right now. I'm still playing Space Marines. I see guys at my shop play. All I do is walk by and be like, dang it, they're using that table to play Warhammer. We have a tourney going on. I need a spot, but it's whatever. Like,
I think Space Marine 2 is gonna get so many people into it.
Which is good.
The success has been, like, I did not expect it to pop off as much as it did, and the whole like 40k VTuber pipeline has been amazing.
What?
To witness. Well, like,
I don't
so
keep
many
up with
VTubers.
I don't keep up with VTubers, so dude, I
No,
know.
no, but so many have gotten into it.
Man.
The Hollow VTubers like Callie and Iris and stuff, they're getting into it.
Oh, it's over. Dude, you're going to have so many people in these shops. Dude, why'd your other shop close down, man? This could have saved them, dude.
No, I think it's awesome. Because, okay, so there's this guy, you've no doubt watched his video about the factions. Bricky.
Yes, I
his
have.
name. You like
Yeah.
Bricky is great. And a bit over a year ago, maybe 2 years. No, it's quite a long time ago.
Yeah,
now, I
I've
think.
seen him play. Yeah.
He made the 2 videos explaining all the factions.
Yep, finished both.
And and so many people have made reaction videos to it.
Mm.
And they're always great because people are not prepared for the insanity that is 40k lore.
No good guys.
So-
Everyone's bad. Everyone's a monster.
I think that's also an important point we have to touch on, the good guys thing. But like a year ago, this one VTuber, Matara Khan, who's like a cockroach lady thing,
Rad.
did a reaction to it, and it popped off, and they started collabing. So more and more, and she's from the Shoujo, I think, like the more indie VTuber company,
Mm.
and more of them started getting into it, and now they're doing collabs left, right, and center. And suddenly, Space Marine 2 came out, and now Kelly and I think yesterday Iris tweeted about it, and more like big, huge VTuber personalities are getting into it, and like Callie's tweeting like, "Brother,
Oh,
brother,
no.
help me!"
Nice.
Her
My
streams
leg
were
is gone.
fucking great, and it's like it's not even like a passing thing, because I think she even went back and streamed the first one, Space Marine 1, which is like 2010-ish.
Jesus.
That is, it's an old-ish game, but it still holds up. Like, it's very of its time.
And
like
that
the
tells a
Gears of War
story.
style.
That tells a story of Leandros and Titus together.
Yeah, Leandros is on your team, and you're on the Fourth
Bastard.
World Graya. There's orcs, and then chaos interrupts. Much like Space Marine 2, you're fighting a cool Xenos army, and then it all becomes fighting Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah, and we
Can
see
ne-
we
can-
see no orcs in this. I remember they said that Space Marine 1, there was like a weird complaint of people saying there were too many orcs, and then other fans are
Well,
like, "That's the point. Orcs, there's
That's
a
the
lot of
point.
them." Yeah, it's
The whole point of orcs is that there's a bajillion of them.
I thought the Tyranids were a problem when I was playing Space Marines 2. Every time I saw them, I was like, "Jesus, I can't take all of them."
That's also the point of Tyranids. There's
Yeah.
many of them. It's like
Yeah.
expendable trash.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's a thing, is that VTubers are getting into it and influencing their weeb fans, and
I'm heavily
it's
influenced.
It's just great, and they're all playing more and more not Space Marine, like Warhammer style games. And the way I got into it, this is going way back.
Of course, no.
When
I
I
want to
was
hear it.
when I was like 11 or 12, so
Okay.
2001 or 2.
Oh God, how old are we? Holy Jesus!
Some of my friends at school showed up with miniatures from what was at the time Warhammer Fantasy Battles. So like a guy on a griffin and a dragon and some knights and stuff like that. And I was like, "Oh, that's sick." So, and I didn't know anything about it, or that armies were a thing, and la la la. So I went to the store and I got some skeletons and zombies and some goblins, not knowing that they can't team up. I got like an orc on a dragon, and I think maybe I didn't get a griffin. It was just an orc.
So was
like
this was pre-painted figures or already painted?
No. This was Warhammer Fantasy Battle, so it was plastic, and they were horrible sculpts, and I didn't know to prime them, so we just painted straight over the plastic. It was horrible, and we never played a game with them because none of us knew how to do it. Like, I remember going to their place, and they had some guys, I had some guys, and we set up a table like we could see on the boxes you're supposed to do, and then we were like, well, we don't have the fucking rules. No, none of us know how to do this.
Just sitting there.
like-
you guys are just sitting there like
we just have our
"Sorry."
guys.
Oh my God.
And then it was like, yeah, fuck it. I guess, I don't remember if we even like tried to play a game.
That's good
Well,
times.
anyway,
That's good times though. That's like Wild West
yeah,
Yu-Gi-Oh. It's just like, do you know the rules? Well, I saw the show.
no.
All right. Well, you can't
And I
attack.
saw the show, and this number is higher than your number, so I guess I get to spit on you.
No, it's like no, I attack your spell card. You can't do that. Yugi did it. What the heck? No.
What the fuck? Oh no, the
Yeah,
Dark Realm.
I know there's no judge nearby to help you. So I remember
Yeah.
I watched a video on that in like the beginning of Warhammer, and like I didn't know it was in Europe or something like that where it first started, but I thought it was pretty interesting how they went from like fantasy, and they made like 2 or 3 different games. They made like a football game with cards and figures or something like that, and I was like,
Oh, Blood Bowl.
yeah, they made Blood Bowl, and I was like, oh, I've heard of that game, and that I was just like, wow, I didn't know these guys were connected to all these like weird like artifacts of like D&D and stuff like that. Like the original guys who created Warhammer, they were like distributing D&D when it first came out, and then like that was like their main profit at some point when the D&D guy said like, hey, no, like you guys are done.
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's like I think Games Workshop started as a company that made minis for other companies, and at some point they turned that into their own game called Rogue Trader, where you could use like their Judge Dredd minis as a kind of police force and stuff like that. And then that became at some point Warhammer 40,000,
Right.
and they started making Warhammer Fantasy. And I think 40K has existed for longer than their fantasy setting, but they've existed since like the late 80s.
Jeez.
And they've gone through a lot of editions. Fantasy got reset like 13 years ago, so now it's called Age of Sigmar. It's on round bases instead of squares.
Right.
The minis are fucking astonishing. They're so good. That's why I've been getting into it a bit more lately.
Wow.
What?
So like after you got into it, right? Or like, when you
No,
bought
no.
your skeletons and
Yeah. No, I'm not done.
oh Jesus. Okay.
Because the fantasy part kind of died off. We stopped playing around with that.
Okay.
Then I
Okay,
remember my local library carried the Games Workshop magazine called White Dwarf. And we would look at it and
Alright.
see all the pictures, and that's where I found out about Warhammer 40,000. And I distinctly remember the images of Tyranids and orcs fighting and being like, that's the coolest shit I've ever seen. Like these green brute men in these checkerboard painted black, like goth trucks and minis that for sure looked like fucking shit. But at the time, they're like, that's so cool. So
humble beginnings, man. That's the best
But-
thing. You're like, hell yeah.
But I knew it was like, this is gonna be fucking expensive, and I don't know anyone who plays it, and la la la. So I didn't get into it at that point. But I was just looking at it and like walking through stores and looking at displays and stuff like that. And I kind of forgot about it for a long time until I started playing like 40K video games. Like they made one called Mechanicus, which is incredible. The soundtrack is amazing. Because it had Necrons in it. You play as the Mechanicus, which are like tech priest weirdos, and you're always...
the Omnisaya and all that crap.
Yeah, they're always desecrating Necron tombs.
Yeah.
Because they're curious little shits who want to explore. And then once I got to a point in the game where you fight Necron snipers called Death Marks, that's when the bear trap got me. Because that unit is the coolest shit I've ever seen. I love it so much. I'll find a picture for you here.
Go for it. So
Necron
what platform was this game on? Because it sounds like they've been making
This
it
was
for a
just PC.
while. Okay.
It was like right at the start of COVID, this.
Oh, interesting.
And then I saw the sniper, and I was like, that's sick. I want one. And that's when I kind of talked myself into starting Kill Team. Because I knew it was like, a full army, that's fucking expensive, and I have no idea how to play. So Kill Team, where you just have this little elite squad of maybe 10 dudes.
Right.
It's perfect. So I got the Start Collecting box, which let you assemble Death Marks and other units, and you basically could build a full Kill Team out of it. I never once played Kill Team, because what happened immediately after is that they announced 9th edition of the tabletop game where Necrons were the big baddies. So a huge launch set came out, and suddenly I had this huge army, and I was just, I think for the next 2 years I didn't play it. I just painted, like a year and a half. So this would be summer 2020 until like like end of 2021. I was just collecting stuff and painting it. I never once played it because it was like a daunting thing. So I was just watching online tabletop games, battle reports as they're called,
Right.
on channels like Midwinter Minis and Tabletop Titans and Dice Check, Bricky, stuff like that. Just watching people play it and like absorbing the rules through that until I decided to give it a go. Almost
That's kind of what I'm doing now.
right.
Like just listening in the background, like understanding like why they're doing
Yeah,
it, and
because
like
like,
the commentators are very very detailed. That's one thing I'm very appreciative
oh,
of.
are you watching War Games live?
I'm watching play tabletop.
Play tabletop?
Play
Oh,
on
good.
play on tabletop because like
Play on
it's
tabletop.
like a freaking esports tourney, or like I think better than it.
Kinda.
It looks like freaking like actual sports. Like they have a lot of B-roll, they do a lot
Yeah.
of like effects, and like when they do like the
Yeah,
like
they
transitions, like
do
wow, it's like high
they
production.
do pre-recorded, right? So they edit it.
Of course.
Yes. Most of the stuff I watch is like live. So a British guy called Liam Dempsey and Tabletop Titans and War Games Live are all live broadcasts of games.
Okay, so very raw footage of just like okay, you could.
Well, no, it's actually surprisingly good production value.
Mm.
Not everybody does that. These people put in the effort to look like $1,000,000, even when it's live, and it's truly appreciated. And then this guy Joe, War Games Live, he goes around from like weekend to weekend, just travels across the U.S. and streams a tournament every weekend, and it's great. Like watching these local people and sometimes big like quote unquote stars, niche internet micro celebrities, play the
Wow.
game. So anyway, that's what I did for a year and a half while I was just collecting and painting, and suddenly I had this gigantic army that I had never used. So I got into it, and I think my first game, that could have been my longest if we hadn't have had to stop because the store closed.
Oh no,
Um,
it's so sad.
we played for 3 hours and we didn't get to turn 3 just because he had to walk me through everything, right? So very nice
Right.
of him to walk me through all the phases and show me how it works. Like I had a base understanding of most of it just through osmosis of streams,
Right.
but playing it in real time, like I move here, okay, that allows you to do this to me. I should not do that, but maybe I do it on purpose and it's bait, and then I can overwatch you and la la la,
Right.
stuff
right.
like that.
Yeah.
So
So baby's first game. Like let's walk you through this. Like there's
yeah,
no
that
no
was
pressure.
It was a lot of fun. Like I got my ass kicked, of course,
Right.
but
That's how it
because
starts.
at the time Necrons were not very good and his army was extremely good, and I played some more different games and used tournament rules and stuff like that, and pretty quickly I started playing like several times a week. Just it's there's something about it, moving the miniatures around, rolling dice, doing tactics, and then paying off. Like it itches just the right spot in in your brain. Where you're like, oh, this is the shit. This is the good shit.
I think that's what's pulling me towards the hobby, because I've always been a fan of again, these are really loose connections I'm making, but like I've always been a fan of like one, lore. I love like big deep worlds about like insane wars and deaths and betrayal. Like all that stuff is obvious. Like it's a great story, right? On the other end of it, when you talk about strategy, moving your units and like strategizing, I grew up playing like StarCraft. In no point was I a StarCraft like expert. I could still play to this day. I'm very slow, but I still understand like strategy, how to react. When you see something your opponent's doing, you either shut it down or adjust accordingly. I like that mindset, and so seeing people play Warhammer, you feel like it makes you feel like a real leader, commander, and like you're doing all these
Yeah.
things, and seeing your units die, you're like, no, damn it, like we're
Ah,
losing.
they were supposed to do this next turn.
Crap, and then like now you have
Yeah.
to do this, or when you see like you're getting overwhelmed and all that stuff, like all that does seem fun. And then the dice rolling aspect what I like about it is the best thing could happen to you or the worst thing could happen to you. It's all up to the dice kind of thing. Like, even though you might be in a spot where the writing's on the wall, it looks really bad, all of a sudden you're like, oh, he failed that. I succeed in this.
Your opponent could just miss all their attacks.
Right. And like I've seen
or you can make a couple saves too many or
right. Yeah. And so it can tip it one way or the other. So my next question is kind of like in terms of like the gaming history of it or whatever. Like, I know you guys have a meta, but is there like what's the community's mindset on metas? Because I remember Bricky saying something like, you know, I know he was joking, memeing, but he was kind of like, gosh darn it, I'm sick of seeing so many people play Space Marines because Space Marines are the best right now. Like, darn poster childs. They could shoot, move, combat. Like, they have, there's like, this like Psyker. Like, if they're Grey Knights, they have Psychers, which is like
Space
another
Marines
one.
Are an incredible use case for how to... Because they're an enigma, because they're simultaneously the worst stat on. If you go on stat-check.com, you can see like the meta results for the game, and you'll notice
here we go.
that Space Marines are at the way bottom.
Interesting.
But they're also the best army in the game, because they have a lot of the game. The army building is done with detachments, right? So you pick your faction, Space Marines. Then you pick a detachment. And detachments give you, like, an extra army rule. They give you some stratagems, and they give you some enhancements. Space Marines get, I think it's 6 or 7, just like standard that all chapters can pick. But if you're playing Blood Angels, you get those 7, and you get 3 that are unique to Blood Angels.
Oh, okay,
Or if you're playing Dark Angels, you also get 3 that are unique to Dark Angels. And certain chapters have unique units that utilize the detachment rules better than others. So White Scars is the chapter that's all about bikes and going fast. They're like Mongolian horseback riders.
Yeah,
right?
they're Primarch's friggin' like...
Jagatai Khan.
Jagatai Khan. Yeah, he's like Genghis Khan. When I saw him, I was like,
yeah.
Jagatai Khan. I guarantee
he's
you these guys
fucking sick.
Okay.
They have
nice.
They
We're
have
getting
an
into the
attachment.
Imperium Primarchs. Heck yeah. There's a part
they have an attachment called Stormlands, which is designed to be the White Scars detachment. But White Scars suck. Because there's so few bike units in the game. Unless you're playing Space Wolves, who have a unit called Thunderwolf Cavalry that counts as a mounted unit, which is the same as a bike. So they benefit so much from the White Scars detachment that people just play Space Wolves in that. And Space Wolves have an incredible win rate. Same for Blood Angels, same for Dark Angels, Black Templars. All these offshoot chapters have great win rates. But standard Space Marines have shit win rate. Because if you just play bog standard Space Marines, you don't have all the weird unique units or characters and stuff like that can like abuse these weird rules interactions.
Can you combine factions?
I mean, you can soup. It's called souping.
Okay.
Any Imperium faction can ally in an Imperial Knight or an Assassin or Inquisitors and stuff like that. But an Imperial Knight army can't ally in Space Marines.
Okay, yeah. So this is more in-depth mechanics that I don't understand, because
some factions can take allies. It's the same for Chaos in a certain sense that Chaos Space Marines can take demons or Chaos Knights, but Chaos Knights can take demons. Demons can take Chaos Knights.
What the heck?
But none of those two can take Chaos Space Marines.
Interesting. Okay.
It's complete nonsense.
Right. Well, obviously you can't do something like, oh, yeah, these... What's your army? Oh, half Space Marines, half Orcs. So it's like, first of all, canonically, that can never happen.
Actually, once you could. There was a chart in, I think, 7th edition that showed like who you could ally with, and it was like close allies, allies of like desperation and like never in a million years. And I think Necrons were the only ones who could ally with basically none, because they're like the kings of space racism. They don't like
Yeah.
anybody.
Oh yeah, no, I
But
think isn't their goal just to take over everything? They're just like, yeah, we're the greatest.
that's
so,
the goal of everybody.
true.
It's like
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
where we get into. At some point, we have to get back to it. The good guy, 40K thing,
The lore, yes,
the lore.
yeah, yeah.
But where was we?
I-
Where
I-
were we?
We were discussing kind of like the mechanics of like combining armies, and it's just like back
Oh,
back
with
in
Space Marines.
seventh edition, Space Marines were able to go with like who orcs? No,
They could probably ally with anybody. Like you could ally
Wow.
Tau and Eldar, which, I mean, I don't think, in terms of lore, I don't think they have a especially bad relationship. I don't think they've interacted a lot at all.
I would assume with how many factions there are, I bet there are ones I don't even know they exist. Tom,
I mean,
looking at you,
The
Grey
fun
Knights.
thing in the lore is that most Imperial citizens have no idea any of these factions exist.
That's
They're not told.
I wouldn't want to be told any of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
do you know? Do you want to know about the horrors of the galaxy?
It's like no.
The torture elves.
Oh,
Like
God.
they most of them think Space Marines are a myth. Like they call them the Angels of Death, because it's like they're like mythical figures, heroes of
Right.
yore.
right, and that's one thing I like about like the Grey Knights, is that even the Grey Knights are known to just not exist among Space Marines. Like no, those like
Yeah, they're the secret police of the Space Marines.
right, but like when the Grey Knights arrive, they decimate everyone because they have to
Yeah.
uphold secrecy.
No witnesses.
And I think that's so funny. Just
What's so great about it is the reason you can't know about them is that they exist only to fight demons, and the Imperium does not want anybody to know that demons exist.
right. My brother, who I think this is one thing that like
Brother.
No, the literal brother.
Brother.
So I text my brother like in when Space Marines 2 came out. I said, "Hey, are you playing Space Marines? I know you said that you're him. He's not. He's very into lore as well. Like we'll consume anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you give us books of like, here's the in-depth like analysis on like how Halo was created, kind of thing. Like we'll read it like for sure." And like so he was actually into Warhammer as well, but never got into tabletop. He just likes listening to the videos because there's like a YouTube channel of a guy that just reads the books, like an audiobook. Like, oh, I'm gonna read number one, and I forget who it is, but I asked him like, oh hey, are you getting into like Space Marines, all that stuff? And he's like, oh heck yeah, I'm already playing it. And then every time I talk with him, he's like, yeah, in the story right now, they just released that there was this one demon doing this and that. And so he's like on top of the story. He says that there was an event recently where a demon king came back to life and they sent 108 Grey Knights after it. And I was like, holy, what? He's like, yeah. And I don't even know what the result of that battle was. So I'm not sure if you know what was going on in the story there, but all I remember is that a bunch of Grey Knights were sent somewhere, and I don't think they returned. And I'm just like, that's insane. What the hell was that?
That doesn't sound familiar. I
Okay,
mean, I don't
I'd have
keep
to ask-
up much.
I'd have to ask him
About-
again. Then that's on me. Yeah. It's like him. He's just very invested into the story. Like he's always waiting for the next thing to come out. Of like, oh, this one guy's coming back, and he's like, oh, and he just reads it and goes, damn, that's crazy. Kind of like the latest manga chapter.
Right, I found a screenshot here. Like you can see the top faction is Space Wolves, the bottom is Space Marines,
Interesting.
and they have access to
Oh.
the same rules.
Okay,
but it's like
where are my guys?
Space Wolves
Oh, okay, I don't see
are
it.
just better set up to abuse it, in a sense, right? So
Mm. Whoa,
And
Grey
so they
Knights,
just are,
yeah,
like, in the
yeah,
middle.
hell yeah.
So is Grey Knights the ones you're looking at?
So okay, so to get into like on my end what I've been looking at. So obviously still playing the game. I got into painting as I've shown you. Obviously I have all these unpainted D&D figures that I remember way back that I talked to you about. But I'm now going to be painting them myself as a way to kind of like train myself, right?
Right.
There's a painting class at my local card shop that they started that's like more local to me. It's basically choose a figure on the table, paint it with us, you keep it. And the guy leading it, very nice. Like we just sit there and just talk about whatever. He's a big Warhammer guy too, and D&D guy, and I just ask him like, hey, how do I do this detail? How do I do this and all that? And like he's a very good teacher, you know. And obviously, just like any other person starting, we all like to start on and hurt ourselves. We're like, oh, this looks awful. This looks like this. And he's very like, no,
Yeah.
don't be hard on yourself. It's painting. It's fun. So my goal right now is paint all my D&D figures first. You know what I mean? Like, see if I actually enjoy painting in general, right? Because he was describing what we're doing is different. It's like there's production level painting for your army to play Warhammer, and then there's detailed painting, which is like D&D and all that stuff. And me, I'm just like, oh, okay. In terms of like what I want to build, I'm on two different ends of spectrum, and this is where the good guy, bad guy mindset could come in. I really like the Grey Knights for the mindset of destroy everything. There's a few of us here. I like how they're psychers. I think that's a cool mechanic, and all that stuff. Like, we don't exist. On the other end, I love the Salamanders because they're the only guys that show some bit of like
they're
protect.
the nice guy Space Marines,
Yeah,
right?
we're the freakiest looking people when we take our helmets off, but like we will save a child, god damn it, in expense for our lives. I'm like, hell yeah. And on top of that, I just love their Primarch, freaking Vulcan. Yeah, like I build, I kill, and goddamn it, I've been tortured. And if you guys collect all these things, I will come back. I'm like, hell yeah, dude. It's like searching for One Piece 6 times or whatever. We're gonna find these things and bring them back.
And they're
man.
like the Marines who are a bit into flame weapons, and that's sick.
Yeah, and I've always loved flame weapons against aliens. It always made sense to me growing up. Even when I was playing Helldivers, I was like, okay, if we're facing aliens, I need a flamethrower. And I just like how that makes sense.
Flamethrower.
Yeah. And so like with Salamanders, like, oh, we specialize in fire. And I'm like, sweet, I could take down the Tyranids easily. And don't get me wrong, Tyranids are cool. I don't think there's a faction in Warhammer that I learned about where I'm just like, I don't like them, but that's my mindset right now. I'm still in like the Imperium side, but if you could convince me on some other sides of like the Chaos Marines and like, you know, about learning about Slanesh and all those people, I could be easily convinced right now because you're playing what are you playing? I can't remember all the names.
Necrons.
You're playing
and
Necrons.
Chaos Knights.
Yeah, okay, but with what I've just told you, is there anything that you want to like, you know, guide me on or like, you know, make fun of me on? Go for it, man. Like, just
if you're painting,
I'm having fun.
If you're painting Grey Knights, much like Necrons, Grey Knights are a easy to paint army. Right?
Yes.
Because it's all silver.
Heck yeah, I know. Yeah,
you can get a long way with just like a silver spray. Like you buy the Lip Belcher spray, you prime them silver, and then you probably give them like a black wash and then dry brush with a brighter silver, and that's like 99% there, right?
I'm not an expert at this. All I have is a white and gray primer and just like the base colors.
Yeah, get a black primer. I prefer black because that way you get like shade in recesses, stuff where you don't fully paint in the crevice. It just remains black, and it like it's shadow. It gets more contrast, right?
Noted. Okay, thank you.
Look up for if you want to do it like real easy and to great effect. Look up. I think it's Honest Wargamer has a video called the slap chop method. It is so easy, and it honestly looks great.
Slap chop. Watch this. You're gonna love my nuts.
Right. So
honest what?
Honest Wargamer.
Gamer streams gaming. Okay.
I have this lizard man that I painted for a friend of my brother. I used the slap chop method. Let me just save it here.
Yeah, and keep in mind my painting skills are very, you know, obviously pretty rough. Obviously my biggest problem I think was just thinning my paints. Like I painted my Mimic and I was like, oh crap, it looks looks funky looking. But my wife is very good at painting, and the reason why we also got into this is because she's been trying to look for a hobby as well. Holy Jesus, man. You did that. What the heck?
Yeah. What slap chop does is like you prime it black and then you dry brush it with white. And then after that you use these paints called contrast, which are like watery paints that just they stain whatever it's under them. So where it's black, it does nothing, and where it's white, the color settles, right?
What?
So you can see on the scales, they're like dark in between, and they're light around the edges and stuff like that. That's just contrast doing what it does. So you just dry brush this thing white, and then you put this particular blue color contrast over it, and you get these scales.
My God.
And it's so easy.
Okay. So, but another question I have, painting related, those orange dots, like, how do you get that? Me, I always, even if I like thin the paint with like a law white and I do it the tiniest drop, it just bleeds out of my character's face or their eyes. I'm just like,
Yeah, that's too thin.
okay, so I gotta like balance it out, like, cause I have the
It's gotta be
hardest
like
time.
a creamy thing. It shouldn't run. It should never be runny.
Okay.
It's almost like like a cream.
But that's another thing I'm having a hard time of. Like, I have like a character that has a tool belt, and I'm trying to paint the gosh darn tools, and I'm like, goodness.
Like you get a feeling for it at some point.
Mm.
A wet palette is also good, but
Yes,
like,
yeah. I got all that. I got wet palette and paint.
Well, then I wouldn't
decent
thin it.
brightening.
Usually, when I have a paint on my wet palette, I don't really thin it much beyond that because it'll draw moisture from beneath it.
Okay. Noted.
Yeah, but like with these orange dots, it's like I usually start with a brown, and then I have like a medium orange and a bright orange, yellowy thing, and I just do like a little gradient. The thing is,
okay, so you're layering that kind of.
Yeah. Once you're like 10 inches away from the figure, you can't tell that the gradient is only like 3 or 4 steps.
Right.
It all bleeds together. The stuff that betrays painting is when you photograph it and you can zoom in and you can see all the little bullshit things like, haha, I see what you did. Because you can get way closer than normal. Actually, there's a webcomic called Penny Arcade.
I've heard of them. I bought their pins at PAX.
Nice. Yeah, that's their thing.
Oh, okay.
On here it is. Monday, they did the most relatable comic I think I've ever seen them do, which is the black-haired character Gabe painting a marine and be like, oh, this is so nice. I'm going to share it. It takes a picture and look at the phone, and it's just shit. It's like, that's always how I feel. Because like, oh, this looks great. I want to show this. And then take a picture, and I hate it.
Dude, don't. I'm going to go delete my mimic picture in general. Shut up. Don't look at it. I'm trying.
I'm going to look at your picture in general.
I hate you. Leave me alone. My wife's very good at it, though. So I actually asked her, like, hey, if I get an army, would you like to help me paint it? Just follow, like, the color guidelines. Because here's a really dumb goal I have. In terms of how invested I am in terms of like my army. So great. So another reason why I chose Grey Knights is there's not a lot of them, and I just want to start out. I just want to start out fairly like simple. I don't want to get like 100 figures. Let's do this. I don't want to do that. I just want to start like
Horde
small.
armies are a tough place to start, unless it's Necrons, in which case they're so easy to paint that like I have 100 just of their little normal guys. And I will probably never use it, because it's not good, but they're very easy to do, like batch paint.
And how many years are you? So how many years of painting are you in now? So 2020. So this is
well, I started in like May 2020.
Okay.
So 4 years.
Wow. Do you have an example of your first model you painted? I would love to see a comparison of like then and now.
I still have him over here. I have touched him up since a little bit, but I have kept him mostly the same just to remind myself.
Yeah. I always like seeing progression, because that's what I'm telling myself. I have like, I'm telling myself, oh crap, I messed this one up. But in my mind, I'm trying to follow the 18 minutes rule. Like if I paint for at least 20 minutes a day, who knows how good I'll be a year from now, all that stuff. And that's all it takes. But yeah, one of my goals right now is I chose Grey Knights mainly because there's not a lot of them, and I could like really take my time and just like paint each one. But also one of my goals is like I have buddies of mine that are kind of like, yo, that's sick. Can I try, or can I like get into painting as well? Like, we want to get together and just have like a painting party and stuff like that. I want to make it to where each one of my buddies paints their own Grey Knight, and I'm like, all right, that's your Grey Knight. You name them. I will bring them to battle and tell you their story. Up, your guy died.
Yeah.
You got shot in the head, like early game. No, it's so sad, but he served his time well. Because I was talking to some of the workers at the shop I go to, and they were saying that they did something called a tournament campaign, where they were like telling a story throughout the entire tourney. Like it was like a 3-month thing. And like, is that a thing on your guys' end?
Kinda. I'm not in 40k where I play, but I'm doing like a narrative thing in Age of Sigmar, where it's this rule set called Path to Glory, and there's the same thing for 40k. It's called Crusade, where you start with like certain limitations, like you can't use named characters and stuff like that. You have to make your own warlord. You have a much smaller amount of points to build an army from, and you earn and build up points, and you can requisition stuff.
Sweet.
And we're doing that for Age of Sigmar. We're in like round 3 of it. I think it's gonna go for 8. It's like a game a month basically, and it gets bigger and bigger.
So the stories progress.
So there's like a leaderboard, right?
Yeah. Wow. That's great, dude. That's great. And
then some guy is like writing the narrative for it. So every mission is like, now you're all in this place, and you run into these lizard people.
right. You're like, oh no.
And then we kind of jot down what happens in it.
Nice. And then like based off of the results of each round, he kind of twists the narrative of like, oh, you guys are pushing forward into this one land. That's detailed. Holy crap, right? Man. God. So I'll ask this obvious question: how much have you spent total?
Oh, I have no fucking idea.
And do you have any like financial blunders of like, oh man, I bought this when it was too expensive, or I sold this when it was cheap, now it's high? Like, is there any stories like that where you're just like, dang it, my God, like I could have bought that for cheap, or this guy was giving it away?
Well, none of that, but I do have like a couple armies that I've started and just never finished. Like, now I'm looking at selling Sisters of Battle stuff, because I got into it because like that's a sick aesthetic, right? Battle nuns in like tanks with pipe organs.
Dude,
and then I'm just over it. After painting a couple units of them, it's like, this is too fiddly, and it's like a horde almost of these little weak chicks. Actually, the army is like extremely powerful now, but I'm just like, part of me is like, ugh, Imperium. I don't want anything Imperium. So I'm kind of looking at selling it. And so I've also started Genestealer cults, which is just like these uprising communist alien worker people, right?
What communist? What the?
They are workers who have been infected by Tyranids.
Sweet.
So like one Tyranid makes landfall somewhere hiding in some cargo, and like infects one person, who then infects other people, and generations later, like 200 years later, the entire infrastructure of their planet is taken over by these mind-washed, these brainwashed workers, and now officials and the military and stuff like that. And then they just turn on the government and take over the planet, and then the Tyranids come and eat it all.
That's horrible. What the heck?
And then the funniest thing is that moments before everything is eaten, the brainwashed people kind of wake up and realize what they've done, and then they all just die.
You're painting this army like nice.
Like, yeah. So it's just like these weird human alien hybrid people on dirt bikes and mining vehicles, using like mining charges and stuff like. They're using their tools to fight war.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that these are infected working men, and they're just like, wait, link me.
They're miners,
dude.
And like cargo haulers and stuff like that. They're just it's worker solidarity, communism.
Dude, let's go. I'm
overthrow the aristocracy. They're so fucking rad.
okay. I'm kind of invested in this. That's pretty awesome. Because another goal I have in terms of like, if I ever build an army, I don't want to have an army of all Imperium. Like,
right.
I want to delve at least in one, in each like how do I say, section of the galaxy, right? Like one Chaos army, one Imperium army, and then one like wild card faction that like I just think is really cool. And what you just described to me is pretty funny. Like that's awesome. They're just
like, I love the narrative of them. They're so difficult to play. Like, I made these things, these like little summaries of each faction.
Okay.
That you can use in the edited version, right?
Please.
So Genestealer Cults is on the Xenos ones. It's like number 3. Tyranid brainwashed working class hybrid humans.
Grossers turned over Jedi before overthrowing their what the fungoid hooligan brutes who are always looking for a bigger fight.
More is better, red is faster, teeth is money, biggest is strongest.
Here's a crazy thing too. I actually was considering doing orcs as well, just because I love RNG. But like they're
so funny.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like their whole mindset is like, does this car work? No. Hits it? Yes.
Yes, it does.
Like that meme. I was like, wait. So do they just not like? Are they mechanics or not? And everyone's like, kind of. Like if you truly believe, then this thing works. It's like, dude, no, that's mechanicus. What the hell are you talking about?
It's kind of been blown out of proportion how much their like belief powers work, but that is basically how they work. That they're all a little bit like
they're
warp sensitive, psyker sensitive. So if enough orcs believe the same thing, it'll just work by psychic warp powers instead of by actually working.
Right.
Stuff like that. The warp is like a weird and very central concept to this setting.
Yeah.
Like this entire other dimension that is just, if our universe is order, then that is the direct opposite. Like there's no rules, there's no up or down. It's hell basically.
Right.
And when you warp travel, you go through it. Like you have to travel through it to do like warp travel in the 40K universe.
Yeah, there's some Primarchs that like jumped in there and then they're just gone.
Jagatai Khan is in there.
Yeah, it's like, is he coming back? Like what the hell?
I think Leman Russ is in there and Corvus Corax is in there.
Right.
I forget what Russ is in there for. Jagatai Khan is fighting Dark Eldar.
Just
and
alone.
Corvus Corax is looking for Lorgar.
So,
like the arch.
Is there no Primarch figures, and are those like not allowed in game kind of thing? Because I feel like
there are.
Okay, are they overpowered, or is there a rule set on them? Because I feel like they're in lore.
Depends.
They're like insanely powerful.
Their rules vary.
Okay.
There's 2 loyalist Primarchs you can get right now. There's Rubute Gilliman, who is like the guy from the Ultramarines.
Ultramarine, yeah. He's the guy.
He's basically the de facto leader of the Imperium. As the Emperor is dead and can't do shit. So he's like
quote unquote dead.
Quote unquote dead. He's alive, but is he? But not really. But he is.
When he dies, we lose our power to warp, right? Or something like that. Like I remember
we can still warp, but he's like the North Star, right? He's like the lighthouse. So
that's a much better description.
We'll just be completely lost.
We'll be lost without our king. Right?
And it'll be much harder to warp travel because he's like the one who opens the portals in a sense.
Right.
It can be done without him, but it's much more difficult.
I love how me and my brother are into the lore of like the Emperor and stuff like that, because he like understands why people fall into chaos. It's like, dude, you kept me from feeling good with Slanesh, Emperor. What the hell? It's like, no, dude, that's bad. This is why I want to protect you. So, there is a deep understanding on both sides of like why these guys like ended up in the chaos and stuff like that. That's one thing I like about the story.
Yeah. I mean, people end up in chaos either because they want to serve the ruinous powers or because they hate the Imperium.
Yeah.
So like, in terms of chaos factions, I think half of them can be described as not per se chaos, but more like renegade. They're not Imperium.
Right.
But to the Imperium, that is the same thing.
Oh yeah,
That is heresy,
it's
and you deserve
heretics.
death.
Yeah, it's like that sounds like heretic talk to me, sir.
You're
Like,
not following
dude.
the Imperial truth. Death.
Yeah,
Death to you.
Yeah, the very moment you're just like, wait, isn't there supposed to be more Primarchs? Okay, you're dead. It's like, wait.
That's too many questions, sir.
Exactly. But people hate that.
yeah.
They're like, why can't I ask questions? It's like, no, you can't.
So in terms of Primarchs, there's also the Dark Angels guy, Lion L. Johnson.
That's the first guy, right? Or second guy? I wish I had them all
Second?
memorized. I remember Lion, yeah.
He's first chapter.
Yeah,
Dark Angels
yeah.
are chapter 1.
Yeah.
I forget what number Ultramarines are. I want to say
They're-
7, but I think that's Death Guard.
The only one I memorized is Salamander is 18. Ooh, 18.
18.
Yeah.
My guys are the Iron Warriors. The 4. They're
The 4.
evil.
Oh.
So those are the 2 Loyalist Primarchs you can get currently. They're pretty good. They just got cheaper in the game in terms of points because no one's running them because they're too expensive and you can just get more efficient stuff.
Right.
So they're basically not seeing tournament play whatsoever.
Mm.
In terms of chaos, three of the 4 big chaos Space Marine factions. So there's Death Guard, Thousand Sons, World Eaters. Those are all standalone Chaos Space Marine factions.
Ooh.
So there's like a bunch of normal, quote unquote, Chaos Space Marine factions, and then there's like one for each Chaos God. And
There's like
3
four,
of those.
there's 4 gods, right? Like
There's 4 gods.
Yeah.
So there's Death Guard who follow Nurgle, there's Thousand Sons who follow Sinch, World Eaters who follow Khorne, and there's Emperor's Children who follow Slanesh. Emperor's Children is the only one who doesn't have a standalone codex yet, but I think they're getting it soon.
Nice.
3 of them, Death Guard, Thousand Sons, World Eaters, all 3 of their Primarchs you can get, and they've all been demonified. So they're huge. And like for Thousand Sons, who are the ones you fight in Space Marine 2,
yeah.
their guy is Magnus the Red. It's like this gigantic bird man. Who is central to how that army plays. Like, there is not a single tournament Thousand Sons list without him. He is so fucking good.
Wow. That's cool.
For World Eaters, it's the same. Their guy, Angron.
Like centerpiece for most of their
Angry
armies.
man. Just gigantic red demon with an axe and a sword. The axe was made, took 10 years to make for a whole planet, and once he got it, he murdered the entire planet with the axe.
Cool.
The sword he made by beating a Slaneshi demon to death with a bar of iron until it formed a sword. he is so angry. He's the angriest motherfucker in the world.
But that's what Khorne's about, right? It's just about anger,
Right.
fighting,
Anger.
and just like if I
So,
kill
like,
you,
Angron-
I win. Yeah.
Angron, he was like raised as slave and like gladiatorial, whatever. So on that planet, the way they riled up the warriors was by like nailing, I think they're called pain nails or something,
Cool.
into their brain that causes like unimaginable pain unless you feel anything but anger. So he's just angry all the time.
Oh god.
And
Dude,
so
these guys are cool. God damn.
So his mechanic on the tabletop is that if he dies, he could just come back full health, new, fresh.
Okay,
Because in the lore, when he dies, he returns after 8 weeks, 8 days, 8 hours, and 8 minutes, or something like that. Because Khorne's number is 8. So he got killed during a battle, and then sometime later he was just reborn, new, fresh, and came back and started all over. He's not allowed to die.
So
'Cause
how's
that's the
that
thing about-
work in the tabletop game? Then so you kill him, he comes back. It's like, okay, I'm not even killing that. I'm just gonna keep fighting everyone else. And whole point.
But you don't have a choice. You have to kill him because he's so strong. Like he will just kill whatever he touches.
That's horrible.
He's not super hard to kill, but there's always a chance that he comes back. Because the way the army works is that you roll 8 dice and then you pick 2 buffs from the results you get. If you roll 3 6s, he comes back.
Oh goodness, but that's 8. That's okay. That's fair. That's fair.
It's a very low chance, and you can modify it, and you can re-roll some dice and stuff like that. It's still very low chance of happening, but it's always a butt clincher. Like this tournament I went to in Germany, my first game, who I beat hard.
Ooh.
He was playing World Eaters, and I killed Angron, and he came back, and I killed him again.
Damn. Let's go.
Well, because the rest of the army is very expensive, so if you can just stand in the way of it and like make them waste their turn moving instead of killing you, then you can slap them back and they just fucking die. And I was playing Chaos Knights, and they're very good at that. Anyway, so Angron is like central to World Eaters. Magnus is central to 1,000 Suns. Death Guard is a little different. They have this guy Mortarion, who's like a big hooded guy with a Grim Reaper's scythe, and it's like they're all about death and disease and stuff like that.
Because Nurgle's all about like we're all gonna turn to dust and die and all that.
Yeah,
crap.
it's like decay and disease and
yeah.
death and
disgusting,
gross pestilence.
Yeah.
They're one of the coolest like model ranges. They got like a big redo in 8th edition, I think, and the model range is it's gorgeous. But Mortarion, unfortunately, is not very good. He's like 300 points to bring, where Magnus is like 430 or something.
Has there ever been like a nerf or like an adjustment on the fly when there's a new release kind of thing? Like, how do I say, oh, look, we released this new character, and all of a sudden everyone's using it, and it's like, oh, crap, okay, we got to nerf him on points or on something like that.
Kinda.
Okay.
In the Xenos one, you'll see the dwarfs. Yes. Leaks of Votann.
All right, so, okay, let's see.
They released... Well, they're Xenos. Technically, they're in the super faction of Xenos, but they are like an offshoot of the Imperium who just lost contact with the Imperium, and now they're like standalone, like they trade and they do business with the Tau and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're just hyper-capitalist people.
Oh, and so it reminds me of something.
Right. Rock and Stone, brother. They got released with some of the most busted rule sets ever made. They got nerfed before they were even released.
Nice.
Because the codex leaked and people were looking at it and just like, what are you talking about? They will murder everything just by looking at it. And they kind of had to change a bunch of stuff right away. They were still very strong when they came out, but it could have been fucking pandemonium.
Yeah, so what are these people at... So this is Games Workshop, right? What the heck are they thinking? Is this still a mindset of like... I've heard around the community, like, is there a mindset where they do a thing where, hey, we're releasing a new army, we're gonna make them the strongest, the meta
to sell it?
Yeah, so then it sells, because that happens a lot in like Yu-Gi-Oh. It's like, oh, here's the latest
that would imply, well, not imply, I guess, like that would show that there's some kind of thought behind it, but basically in 9th edition there was a huge problem with some like called codex creep. Like every book was the new best thing because it would just stack on top of whatever came before it, right? And so they came out towards the end, as did Imperial Guard and World Eaters, and they were all very strong when they did. But Leagues of Votann was at that point a completely new army, so of course they want to sell it, but
right, it's like
I don't know how much to ascribe to, like, this is the new thing, we want to sell it, we're gonna make it bustedly strong. It would make sense, I guess, but it's also like nefarious in a way.
Right.
They're also just sometimes seems to be completely unaware of what the fuck they're doing. So 10th edition, they started it by making everything an index. So everybody had like very basic rules. Everybody had one detachment, and it all got released at the same time. Some factions were dog shit, and one standout, Eldari, was insanely good. Like, it was fucking crazy what they could do, and all their units cost like a third of everyone else's. It's like nobody talked.
Boo.
It's like the rumor was that it was like 3 different teams worked on their part of the indexes, and they just didn't talk to each other. So they would come out with this incredible tank for 120 points, can shoot from anywhere on the board, shoot through its friends. It's like flat 6 damage, where other people get much more expensive tanks that are like random damage, and they have to see you and stuff like that. It's like, obviously one of these is better.
God.
And yeah, it
a,
was
a straight wait. So
nuts.
a guaranteed wound, like just every time it shot.
Basically, I mean, no. It had okay. So Eldar detachment rule is reroll a hit and a wound of 1.
Okay.
That tank also has that rule. It shoots 2 shots. That means you reroll both hits and both wounds.
Oh.
It's high strength. It hits on 3s. It most likely wounds on 3s, if not 2s. It's very high armor penetration, and it's flat 6 damage.
Oh, jeez.
So that is insanely good. Where other tanks are like, okay, I hit on 4s, I'm strength 12, so if I'm shooting another tank, I'm wounding on 4s. I don't get any rerolls. It's bad AP, and then the damage is like D6 plus 1 or whatever. So it can be 2, it can also be 7. But if you're shooting 2 shots and you're guaranteed to hit, guaranteed to wound, most likely the opponent doesn't get an armor save because you're so high armor penetration, and you just do flat 6 damage. That's incredible. And you cost like 2/3 of another tank.
That's horrible. Why? What are these
And that's what they
designers doing?
released.
Yeah. Have fun, guys.
Plus, Eldar have a mechanic where at the start of the game you roll, at the time you roll 12 dice, and you could just substitute those rolls at any point in the game.
How much did that cost on release?
What?
Well, how much did that the previous thing you talked about,
The tank?
The tank, yeah. How much did
The
that
tank
cost
was
on-
120.
Oh my god.
And then you look at, I think now it got nerfed to 180, which is like what similar tanks cost.
Mm.
It just, everything in the Eldar Codex started like 2/3, like a third lower than it should have been.
My god.
It was fucking nuts.
They do no playtesting up in there. Oh, Jesus.
Like, that's the rumor from
yeah.
other playtesters, is that there were basically no playtesting, and they didn't listen to the people who did it. Yeah, 10th edition was a fucking mess. It still kind of is. It was... Like, I miss 9th edition so much. But 10th edition had some...
Back in my day.
Back in my day, when Necrons were fucking horrible. Now they're pretty good. So, I mean, I like what they're doing in 10th edition, the way they've changed from 9th. But the way the rules are written and released is so scattershot and inconsistent. It's spread across like 5 different online documents. The rule book is basically useless. You get the core rule book.
Great.
And then you have to get the FAQ and the errata, and you have to... It's a fucking mess. It's like the edition launched with a 17-page like clarification document.
Dude,
like,
what
when
the
we
heck is
say this, we mean this. That document is now 36 pages after a bit over a year. And there's an FAQ, and there's like tournament specific things and changes for the indexes, and the points change. And if you want to play a full like tournament game, you have to be Azure with like 5 different online documents, and it's insane how spread out everything is.
So where are we in terms of like this season of 10th edition? Like, is there a thing of like 11th edition incoming? Is there going to be a whole
Well,
reformatting?
seems to be,
like, because
it seems to be-
the popularity right now of Warhammer incoming, there needs to be kind of like an adjustment of like, all right, like we need to kind of reset. Like, what are you thinking?
What's weird, it's like, I don't think they've planned on Space Marine 2 coming out or being a huge success in terms of that. There's basically no releases for the rest of the year they've announced.
Okay.
Which is weird, because the track record seems to be that every edition lasts 3 years. So they have about 18 months to release the last I think half the armies or more still don't have codexes. And they have 18 months to do that. And then they might just reset everything again. Previously, what they've done is that codexes last for 2 editions. So, for a lot of 9th edition, armies were playing with their 8th edition codex. But, like, 9th edition was written so that you could do that.
Huh.
If they release 11th edition, it might just be that some armies get to play their 10th edition codex throughout that. And they could structure it in a way so it makes sense. And then it'll be... So 11th would probably be next summer, so 2026.
Goodness.
Yeah. I think this should probably slow down a bit. It's like 3 years for an edition is not a long time when you have 26 playable factions that all need a book.
I mean, where we're at right now, it seems like Warhammer has a fairly bright future still because you have success of the game, people most likely getting into the tabletop. You got your boy Henry Cavill, who's producing.
Your boy.
Yeah, he's got a hand in producing the Warhammer live action that's like that they're working on, and they're saying that he's like the biggest Warhammer fan of all time with him and his custodes. We haven't seen him anywhere ever since Space Marine came out. It's like,
no.
I don't know. It's there might be a wave here where like I think they maybe 11th edition might come earlier, where it's like, okay, all the new players are here, let's reset.
Yeah, I think. Well, all the new players will probably be collecting armies now, like yourself.
They got me. No.
They got you. But that's the thing. It's like there's a hobby lag, right? So you have to buy the models. You don't have to paint them to play with them, but you have to paint them to bring them to tournaments.
Right. And like I'm not going to be entering a tournament this year. That's not happening.
Probably not.
Right.
But there's no more releases for the rest of this year, and then after, like in the new year, I think the next stuff is Imperial Guard and Eldar are getting codexes.
Whoa!
And then they're gonna fuck everything up again because Eldar will always be busted. They can't write Eldar to be not the best. No, it took them over half a year to nerf Eldar to be in line with everybody else at the start of 10th edition. It took them 5 nerfs. 2 of them to like Universal Game Systems, and 3 of them to Eldar directly, and then they were in line.
My God,
it was insane how busted they were. They're still very good, but now they cost a lot, so you just don't get as many little bullshit units to mess around and be way too efficient. I'd be very curious about the Henry Cavill show. What the timeline is for that?
That's my question as well. Because like Warhammer
we probably
universe
won't see shit until 2026.
Yeah, I'm curious to what storyline they're gonna like zoom in on because the Warhammer universe is it's too freaking big. Because like learning about Titus and the Space Marines, this is like one tiny part of the entire timeline.
Yeah.
And
well,
so
the thing is, the thing about the timeline is that it moves slowly, but it fluctuates a lot. It's like a pulse on like a scanner at the hospital, right? It moves slowly, but it bobs up and down a lot. It's very widespread. So like every book is basically written as an anthology piece in a sense. It's like they don't reference each other a lot.
But we got to piece it together. Like holy
crap. So the Return of Lionel Johnson, the Primarch.
Yeah.
They write a novel to go with that, but that novel is not like a direct continuation of anything or a prequel to anything. It's just like a standalone story.
Interesting.
So they do like connected stories. If you get I think it's called the Ultramarines Omnibus. That is like a book? That is a book of other novels and short stories focused about a guy called Uriel Ventris. And it's like takes him through it's like a collection of novels where he's like the main character. One of them is called Storm of Iron. That is like one of my favorites because the Iron Warriors are the main characters, and they're evil, evil
Oh.
sons of bitches. That's great.
No.
And then that leads into Ural Ventress isn't in that, but the main villain in it, Hanzo, is in. He's very instrumental in some horrible shit that happens to Ural Ventress later on. So those books are all connected because they share characters. But then you read something like The Infinite and the Divine, which is like an all Necrons focused book that takes place over
Jeez.
10,000 years.
Jeez.
It's like, that's not connected, except it references the Horus Heresy happening, and it's like how it meant nothing to Necrons because they were just like, well, and then the stupid primitives did this, and it's like, whatever.
right.
It's like they knew it was gonna happen because they can like foresee the future. They just didn't give a shit because it's so inconsequential to anything on a galactic scale.
Right.
It's really important to the Imperium.
Yeah, because
but
it's the Imperium
to-
fighting with themselves, but they're just like, haha.
It's a huge intergalactic war, right? But to the Necrons, it's just like, whatever. Fucking mayflies, they'll be gone in 10,000 years. Who cares? I fucking love the Necrons. They're my favorite.
Yeah, let's get
Grumpy.
let's get into that. So favorite sounds like Necrons.
Oh, I mean, easy
Like,
Necrons.
Easily, okay.
They're like the progenitor species of the whole setting. Like their timeline, it's crazy because like okay. At the very beginning,
No,
there
go
once
for it.
was
Go
a-
for it. Yeah.
there once was a people called the Necrontyr. They were like flesh and blood people, but they lived around a star that irradiated them, and they all had like super cancer, right? No one would live past 40. That meant there were a very aggressive species and like expansion and stuff like that. So they basically conquered the known galaxy, and ruled it for millions and millions of years, until they found a species that they refer to as the Old Ones, the Great Old Ones. This lizard-like species that seem to live forever. So basically gods, right? Space gods. And they asked them, please, can you help us live longer? We die so easy. We spend entire planets just to make tomb complexes. Everything is a fucking grave, right? So even then, it was already grimdark. Like this entire galaxy-wide species completely obsessed with death because everybody was dying all the time. Everything is a fucking necropolis. So they're like, please help. And the gods were like, no. And so the Necrontyr said, okay, bet. And they went to war with them.
just out of anger, they're like, all right.
Yeah, fuck you. Don't deny me my immortality, please. And so like, well, die then. The Necrontyr got their asses kicked though, because they couldn't do anything. So they met these other gods, star gods, called the Catan, who made a deal and said, we can make you immortal, and we can help you fight. If you help us fight the Great Old Ones, we'll make you immortal. And the king, the Silent King, Sarek, said, all right, bet. And so his entire... They built these bio-furnaces on all planets, and everybody was led into these green flames and became the Necrons, the metal skeleton people we see in the setting today.
Glowing green.
Glowing green, metal, men, women, children, didn't matter. Everybody was dragged to these furnaces and stripped of their flesh and made robots. And they're now immortal. What they
Nice.
didn't know is that it would cost them their soul. The Catan love eating souls, and so they ate all the Necron souls.
All right.
So now we have these soulless, crazy androids who then went to war with the Great Old Ones alongside the Catans. They fucking nuked the Great Old Ones. They're dead. And then after some time, while the Catan were like fat with, like they were all full and digesting, and they started eating each other because like, okay, we ate all these trillions of souls. What if we eat Catan souls? And they start
Oh
fighting
my
each other.
Gosh.
And the king was like, okay, activate treason protocols, and they fucking nuked the Catan, shattered them into. Only one Catan was truly killed. The rest were shattered, and that's why you can use them in your army. Like you bring a shard of the Nightbringer. It's like the death incarnate, like this big ghost man with a scythe. Like you bring shattered gods to the tabletop.
How the heck were these guys able to take down gods? What the heck is this?
Because Necron technology is like basically magic. They use math to like time travel and shit like that. They can bend reality with just the power of science.
Nice. Okay.
They're so fucking smart. So after that, they were like, all right, we're weak. Okay. Oh, another thing really important to mention is that in their war with the Necrons, the Great Old Ones, created the Eldar and the Orcs as like bioweapons to help fight the Necrons, but the Necrons were too strong. So the Orcs were created as like this primogenitor species called the Krorks, which were way bigger, way smarter, incredible warriors, but still not enough. And the Eldar were the Eldar, so they were like very psychically adept and tricksy and stuff like that. None of it worked. So after the Necrons were done killing 2 sets of gods, they were exhausted of resources, and Kroorks and Eldar were too, like, up in arms or whatever. So the Silent King said, all right, everybody go to sleep. And they set an alarm for 65 million years, and that's why they're all waking up in the year 40,000.
So just bad timing on our end. Just like, oh, crap.
Basically, yeah, kind of. Basically, they were like, okay, we are now immortal. We don't have to fight the Eldar or the Kroorks. We're just going to go to sleep for 60 million years, and they will go extinct on their own. And they weren't completely wrong. Like, over time, the Kroorks didn't fight enough. Orcs get stronger by fighting. And there was nothing to fight. That's why they've gone dumb and weak.
Oh.
Like, they're still super strong, but they were way stronger. So they got much stupider and much weaker, and they're now what they are in the setting, which is just like the big muscle man.
And Primarch Vulcan fought one of them. Yeah.
The Eldar basically ruled the galaxy undisputed for millions of years after that. And that's when they fell into depravity. Because, like, they had everything. They lived long. They were beautiful, blah, blah, blah. So, and they're very, like, in tune with their... they're very emotionally sensitive, in a sense. They experience all emotions at a way higher level than anyone else because they're so attuned to the warp. So they were just, like, seeking the most extreme experiences, whether it's, like, drugs or music or sex or whatever.
Nice.
So they did that, like, in crazy orgies for millions of years until they birthed the 4th chaos god, Slanesh, who's like the god of excess.
Yeah, everything. So it's like all pleasure and everything else, and they're like, nice.
Just people like to. It's like a kind of an annoying thing is that anytime Slanesh is brought up, it's always in the context of sex, but it's like just anything in excess, like gorging on food. Playing loud music, stuff like that. Just any feeling driven to its extreme.
Right.
That is Slanesh. And when Slanesh was born, she basically, she. It's kind of ambiguous.
Of course.
Like, it's a very female form when they're depicted, but they're still referred to as the Prince of Pleasure and stuff like that. She who thirsts.
Right.
She who thirsts basically wipes out like 99% of Eldar. Just sucks their souls and kills them on the spot. And they're now bound to her realm of chaos and they're being tortured forever.
Right.
Some Eldar were like, all right, fuck this. So before everything went to shit, they went off on their own little crafted planet called Craft Worlds. And so they escaped that cataclysm. And what is now known as the Dark Eldar were people who escaped into the Webway. And they live in this ginormous place called Komara, like the Dark City. Basically like a seaport in the Webway. The Webway is like so there's like the material
the Webway is not the warp.
The Webway is not the warp.
Okay.
It is a safe way to travel around our galaxy without ever entering the warp. It's like this like this spider web of little pathways in between.
And does everyone have access to that, or just the Eldar?
The Eldar know how to get there.
Oh, they're smart. So they're
In
okay.
old Necron lore, they could use something called the Dolmen Gate to like hack their way into the webway.
Okay.
I don't think they do that anymore. Part of what caused the Imperium to go to shit is that the Emperor was working on a portal to the webway himself, and then Magnus kind of busted in and made everything fall apart, and it caused like a huge like chaos eruption on Earth. And that's why the meme is that Magnus did nothing wrong. Basically, because he didn't know that he was interrupting, because the Emperor didn't tell anybody anything.
Why didn't the Emperor tell us?
So he ran to the Emperor to warn him about chaos, and that kind of it made everything explode and turned like everything went to shit.
No.
So the webway is just this safe port, this safe travel around the galaxy that only the Eldar know how to use. But in the webway also live the Dark Eldar, who they stave off the hunger of Slanesh by doing basically Slaneshi things. So like by indulging Slanesh, they avoid getting eaten. So what they do is like they conduct raids on real space, like on the galaxy, just steal people away, and they torture them forever.
Just random bystanders. Like, all right, sucks.
Yeah, they'll just go to a planet and kidnap the entire population, take them to Kamara and do horrible things, have gladiator fights, turn them into furniture, living. It's just they are like a fascinating. I also kind of started collecting them a little bit, just because I like that they're elves that don't use the warp at all. They don't use magic. What they are is like fast-moving gladiator combat jet bikes and like space pirate aesthetic, and I fucking love that. They're very weird right now in the tabletop, where they can be super strong, and they are also just made of glass. Like they're the definition of glass cannons. They die so quick.
Damn.
If whenever they get a codex, I might start collecting them more. But they're so cool. Like just black armored, spiky, evil dark elves, right? They have all these covens. Like so, there's like the Frankenstein part of it, where people who craft extra arms and wings on things. And there's the gladiator witches, and
what the heck is this?
Yeah. They're fucking badass. Yeah, so that's... Okay, so, year 40,000, Necrons start waking up again. Kind of started waking up a bit earlier some places, because the Mechanicus would go poking around, and like tomb complexes would appear on different planets, like people would dig too deep.
Or, right. Oh, what's this? And then,
or maybe the tomb worlds just like malfunctions, or... anything could happen, really, that makes some people wake up sooner than others. The Silent King, though, the guy who caused the whole everybody to lose their souls, he did not go to sleep with his people. He went on a self-imposed exile to the galactic void. Like, he left the galaxy for 60 million years.
And he came back?
Just to sail the Sea of Stars. What he did, like, it's casually just dropped in the... They got a codex in December, and I don't feel like people just kind of glazed over this. It's like a 2-page spread about what he did in his, about his life, and then what he did in the exile. He has conquered, like, galaxies, plural, for his people to inhabit. His plan is to bring his people back to flesh bodies to cure their state. So... But the thing, like, okay, so they can go back to their flesh bodies, but you can't recreate a soul. Not yet. So they're, like, working on recreating souls, and that's why they're interested in humans, because humans are, like, the perfect balance of psychically... They're connected to the warp, but not too much. There's 1 trillion, billion, million of them, so it's easy to get specimens to study.
Okay.
And stuff like that. So he just went off for 60 million years, conquered some galaxies, and then he discovered something in the void, it's not said what it is, that made him return to our galaxy and wake his people up.
So he's going to try to cure his people, but then there'll be no more Necrons if they become humans. Like what's his
But
plan?
then they will just become the Necrontyr again.
Oh, sorry, the Necron
The
tier.
plan is just to recreate what they were and undo. He's so ashamed of what he did
Oh, that's nice.
that he was tricked by these Kitans and had his entire people's souls eaten, and now he sees what it's doing to his people. Like without souls, they go crazy. Anything that isn't
so
nobility,
he found something that could create souls in the warp. My God.
or he met like a threat that had to be staved off. Like the running
Yeah.
theory is that he encountered like the Tyranid hive mind or something like that.
Oh.
He's also very anti-warp, anti-chaos. So part of the storyline in recent years is that he has made something called the Pariah Nexus, which Necrons have pylons that can control warp energy. Like you see them in Space Marine 2,
Yes.
where they can like enhance or shut down warp stuff. It's called like Noctilith. It's like night stone or whatever, black stone. So he is like there's this entire huge part of the galaxy where these pylons make a network. They connect and they shut down like warp energy in between. So demons and stuff like that can't spawn in there. But it also disconnects human and other living things from the warp. And when you disconnect a human from the warp, that kind of kills the soul and they become these mindless husks and stuff like that. So I forget if it's in a book or if it's just in the codex, but it tells of these imperial planets that just kind of go like morose, like they stop communicating. People are just like zombies and stuff like that because they don't have any connection to the warp. But
Jesus.
Necrons don't give a shit because they don't have souls.
Right. Like, oh, this works.
And
this
it,
works for us.
And it gets rid of the chaos taint. Like there's no demonic incursions and stuff like that. So only the most stalwart, like imperial citizens, like Sisters of Battle or Space Marines, people with strong willpower and other magical means, are able to kind of keep going in there.
Goodness. So wait a minute. So the Necrons and like that god that was in the warp that came back, they've never encountered the Tyranids yet, or like what's the relationship
they have.
there?
They have.
Okay, they have. Okay.
They hate each other.
I
assume for like opposing. Yeah, I mean obviously. But,
yeah.
but for weird like because you can't really be enemies with a Tyranid. They don't have personalities, right? But a Tyranid's entire goal is to just consume.
Right.
All they do is eat. Like they reduce
hive
a
mind
planet.
sieve and they just go. Like
There's the central hive mind that's just commanding these gigantic armies of feeder ships.
That is a reason why I like the Tyranids. It's just like
they're driven
all
by one simple thing, and it's just eat, consume, my child.
Yeah.
And that is a huge threat to Necrons. Necrons aren't in danger because they're made of metal. They're not biomass. The Tyranids don't want to eat Necrons. But Tyranids are a danger to Necrons because if Tyranids win, then there's no people left to study and like recreate. If they eat the galaxy, there will be nothing left to rule.
Like, yeah. Like we can't let them. It's that classic thing of like we can't let them do what they want to do. Like it literally doesn't benefit any of us.
And that's kind of where we get to the whole idea that like people were fighting on Twitter over
what?
the good guy of 40K. Are there any good guys in 40K?
No.
Like, well, Tyranids are the good guys because they're not evil. They just eat, and the orcs aren't evil because they just want a good scrap. And the Imperium is the good guys because they're the main characters. And it's like that's not the same thing.
No, dude. What the things that the humans and the Imperium have done is it's war atrocities. It's the monster.
Everybody either wants galactic conquest or they want to serve their own goals at the expense of everyone else. Like, no one is looking to rule together or to save the galaxy. except for the Silent King, and that's why the Necrons are the good guys. Well, that's the thing, right? It's like, okay, Silent King kind of wants to fix the galaxy and kick out warp. He wants to get rid of the Tyranids, and he wants to shut off chaos access and like the big warp rifts and stuff like that. Those
Sure.
two things are objectively good.
Mm.
But he wants to do it so he can rule, kill everything else and rule the galaxy. It's like he wants to save his people and he wants to fix the galaxy. That's good.
Yeah.
But he wants to kill everybody else. That's bad.
Yeah. Or like, I'm killing everyone for my
So
people.
it's like everybody is the good guy from their own perspective,
Right.
right? And because all of the story is told by the Imperial perspective,
we
people
think
just
that
assume
the
that
Imperium
humanity is the good guys. But
right.
every book and game and piece of media opens with the little blurb that comes at the start of Space Marine 2. It's like to live in this time is to be a part of the most cruel regime of mankind of all time.
It is
Like this galaxy spanning hyper religious fascist terrible regime of just tyrants and blind zealotry, people who get lobotomized for thinking the wrong thing, just turned into a living computer.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
being made into a dreadnought within like the Imperiums is like worse.
That's an honor.
That's worse than death, dude. What the, do you just kept
It's like,
alive?
oh brother, you almost died there. Here, go in the forever box.
And then you wake up and you're just like, you're just
No, but it's
going
like-
nuts, dude.
It's like, oh, you accidentally set 20 Primarchs instead of 18. Now you get to be the skull that controls this specific door until you stop working. It's like everything in the Imperium is driven by servitor human computers.
Yeah, what's with the babies? What's with the flying babies? What is
There's
that?
also the babies.
Yeah.
I mean, in the olden days, that was just like, oh, it's a dead baby. We're going to repurpose it. Now it can carry things. It flies around and carries things. Now it's like been retconned into like they're vat grown. For what reason, I don't know. Why couldn't it be a little flying robot or a drone? But it's like, well, that's the kind of the thing, is that the Imperium shuns like AI and machines and autonomous machines, because as all good sci-fi settings, there was an uprising. They had AI and then it fought back.
No.
So now they're not allowed to. That's why everything is like tech priests doing sermons. Invention is forbidden. You're not allowed to invent things. You're only allowed to you're only allowed to rediscover old inventions.
So what's the Mechanicus doing then?
They're discovering old shit. Like they go
Oh.
digging for what's called STCs, standard template constructs, which is like blueprints for shit that was invented in like the golden age of humanity, which was like a year
So
15 to 20,000 or whatever.
So can you lie and be like, look what I found? What's a new
yes,
invention?
and they do all the time. But that is heresy. That is tech heresy.
Oh my.
And the evil Mechanicus, just called the Dark Mechanicum, they are they're like heretics because they insist on inventing, right? So they're basically, they join chaos just because the Imperium won't have them. So they infuse demons into their machines because now they're evil.
So that I understand with going to chaos. It's because the Imperium,
Because the
We're not-
dogma of the Imperium is too strict.
yeah. And that's why I can understand why some guys turn to that.
And so
side
you
where it's
become
like,
a renegade because you don't want to follow the rules, but then you only really have allies that serve the chaos powers and stuff like that.
right.
But yeah, the Mechanicum is strictly against invention.
That blows my mind. Like what?
But they skirt the rules a lot, right? So
Right.
a funny thing, it's like if you find an STC, a fully functioning STC, you will be handsomely rewarded. The most famous example is that the combat knife that all Space Marines have came from an STC found by 2 guardsmen. Each of them were rewarded an entire planet
Sweet. That's
They just
awesome.
got a planet for them to govern and rule and live on for
Nice.
finding this intact STC for a slightly better knife.
Oh, you guys like
And
nice. Wait till you find this
so, and then
chainsword. Hell
you
yeah, dude.
have you have the faction Leagues of Votan in the Xenos faction who kind of drifted off from humanity and stuff like that. They worship these things called the Votan, which they call like their ancestor cores and stuff like that. And they're basically just fully functioning STCs, so they could just create anything really. But they're like now because it's grimdark, they have to be kind of dysfunctioning, and that they could only ask them once 100 years, and they're going crazy and they're giving false information and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, the Mechanicus is always looking for new STCs because they're not allowed to invent anything, only rediscover.
But that would mean that there's a finite amount. So if they discover
Yes,
everything, it's like
yes.
now what's the Mechanicus' job after they discover all the old
But
technology?
how will you know that you found it all?
Dude, you're asking the wrong dude. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd immediately turn to chaos. Like, hey, we found everything.
but
All
that's
right.
what's so funny about it. It's like they're the science faction, and their entire job is to find stuff and figure out how
It,
stuff from the because like golden age of technology, humanity stuff was insane. Like it's a gun that
okay.
just
Okay.
teleports planets to who knows where. It could just like take bites out of the galaxy and stuff like that, and no one knows how it worked or where it is or how to get it. Like there's a couple weapons still left over from that time, and they're extremely powerful. So at some point, for a short span of time, for like 10,000 years, humanity was like technologically the most advanced being in existence,
And how long ago was
besides the Necrons.
the Golden Age? Is that before the
I think
heresy?
I think it was around like 10,000 to 20,000.
Okay.
And then at some point there was like the Age of Strife,
Yes, I remember
where
Age of Star.
the humanity had spread too thin, and there was a bunch of like rebellions and stuff like that, and they kind of became disconnected from the wider Imperium.
Mm.
It was also something I think the birth of Slanesh kind of fucked it all up, made everybody lose. Like they lost connection because of it, because of the ripples of energy across the entire galaxy. And so now all these weird little splinter societies existed. And then from somewhere to 30,000, the Emperor showed up and did like the reunification wars, where he just went on a galaxy wide crusade to reconquer Imperium worlds.
Goodness gracious! And this is
And
all
that's how.
before the heresy.
This is all before the heresy.
Jesus, we're having
So that's
problems
where he
before
like
that.
he makes the Primarchs, and they get spread to the winds and found again, and
Yeah, yeah.
he reconquers a lot of the galaxy, not all of it.
Finds his
And
sons
at some point, the half the suns fall to chaos and rebel.
naturally. Yeah.
And there's still like splinter societies out there. I think the first of the Horus Heresy books, there was a society where like their leader calls himself the Emperor. He has like convinced the planet he's on that he is the Emperor, so they serve
Nice.
him as such.
Nice.
And so of course the Emperor and Horus and stuff like that has to go there and kill him. Because you can't do that. That's heresy.
Yeah, I remember someone saying that the Horus Heresy and like the Age of Strife were the most quote unquote documented points in the Warhammer story.
Yeah.
Are we still like, so everything you told me about the Necrons, like I assume that stuff is still being written like as we speak, and
Yeah,
like
kinda.
it doesn't look like there's like an end in sight, obviously,
No.
but
No.
you know they could just keep going because there's just so much crap in every
Yeah,
crevice of like
because
yeah.
because like I said, like the current place in the storyline is told in like these little bite-sized chunks
Mm.
and anthology stuff. Like new books don't have to be written in the current year of the timeline. Like some of them just take place in the past.
Okay.
But basically every edition has like a bit of lore in it in like the core launch rule book, and there's usually like a companion novel. So for ninth, it's called Indomitus, and for this, it's called Leviathan, because that was like the launch. That was the name of the edition.
Okay.
So currently, in current year 40K, the Necron thing is not the spotlight right now. It's the fourth Tyrannic War, where like the Leviathan Tyranid fleet, which I think is also what you're fighting in Space Marine 2.
I think so, yeah.
The Tyranids have redoubled their efforts and are now attacking on more fronts than ever before.
We're more hungry than ever. Like, okay.
Yeah, right.
This is great.
So like they're coming back for the fourth time.
What the hell?
And, yeah.
And we still don't know where this hive mind leader
No.
is. Like, just somewhere in the warp. Just where?
Somewhere in the warp. No, not in the warp. In the space between galaxies.
Goodness.
And the thing about Tyranids is that they're arriving from several places, like all around the galaxy. So the theory is that we're surrounded.
Yeah, they were saying like a Tyranid like horde or like a legion of Tyranids is like a death sentence for a planet. Like I remember someone saying that in Space Marine 2, it's supposed to tell the story of the Thousand Sons and Titus. That Tyranid swarm at the beginning was supposed to be like, that's it. You guys aren't getting out of this. Like it's done. Because that's how many there are, which is so sick.
There's no way like a couple Space Marine can fight up a full Tyranid invasion.
Right. That's just how overwhelming they are, and that's why when you explained they're coming out from different corners, I'm like, uh-oh.
You're basically fighting like a little scout fleet or whatever in Space Marine 2.
Yeah.
That's like a
feeder
tendril.
Yeah.
Like it's described as a tendril because like when you look at the galactic map of Tyranid invasion, it's just like this branch of of organisms like snaking its way through space. And that's why they do the gene stealer cult things sometimes. It's like they put this seed of one single alien on a planet to weaken it, because in 100 years the whole thing will be so infested with alien that they can just like the Tyranids will signal, okay, we're coming now, and that'll set the bell. It's like, okay, time to rebel, and then a month later the Tyranids will arrive and eat whatever's left.
God, playing a long game, man. These guys are smart.
They're smart. They're fucking ingenious.
God.
And the Tyranids are cool, but they don't have a lot of narrative, because you can never tell a story with the Gene Stealers. No, but not the Gene, with the Tyranids as main characters, because they don't have.
They don't have a goal. Yeah, they don't have a goal, or like they have a goal, but it's kind of like
they have a goal, but it's like
how do you tell the story
primal
of like,
instinct?
Yeah,
you can't really tell the story from the perspective of a Tyranid, because there's no such thing as a Tyranid. They're all sharing the same brain. Then you would have to tell it from the perspective of the hive mind, and I don't think that would be bold. I don't think they could do that. What they did do, though, is they wrote a book called Ascension Day, which is from the perspective of Gene Stealer cults. And that book is great. It's not very long either. It's very, very cool. It's like follow the perspective of these Gene Stealer cults who just think they're just doing the normal good thing. They think they're serving the Emperor, except their Emperor has like 4 arms and a wider mouth than the normal one, and it's like they just think that their depiction of the Emperor is more accurate, because to them the Emperor is a Tyranid.
Oh my gosh.
And they think of like the saving angels, that is the Tyranid hive fleet arriving. Like you get the perspective of just like their warped sense of reality, and it's fucking fascinating.
I feel like if you were to do like a witness of like the Tyranids and like tell about their story, it'd have to be like a documentary. You just got to tell about what they've done, not the why, but like what they've done so far.
And that's what makes them great villains, right? Because you can always tell a story about a Space Marine fighting off the Carnifex like a raving monster or something like that. But you kind of just have to tell what's happening, not why.
God. Okay. So I'll ask this then. Okay, I'll ask this then. So in your experience, is there anything that sticks out in terms of like anything you hate about this hobby? Faction, playstyles, anything, because your passion is like insane. I love this, right? But there's got to be something that sticks out. Like, I hate when I'm playing against this. Gosh darn it.
I love the lore and I love the game, but I'm kind of getting a little bit over the tabletop part.
Okay.
I'm taking a break. Let's put it that way. That like I've mentioned a couple of times, I've gone into Age of Sigmar just because it's a different rule set, but it's the same great minis, right?
Right.
Games Workshop makes the best minis. They just do. There's no game system out there with better miniatures. They're so fucking beautiful. Also the most expensive.
Okay.
You get what you pay for. It's like they look insane. And the Sigmar rule set is just, I think it's more streamlined, but the main thing that makes it better for me is that units are way more expensive, so armies are smaller. What I dislike about 40k right now is how cheap units are and how big armies are, and you still go to a tournament and you're expected to get your game done in 3.5 hours with these. It's like the difference between playing with 16 chess pieces and 30.
So by cheap units, you mean the cost of the unit within the game?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, I thought you meant how
the models are still super expensive.
Okay.
So that's another
right.
weird. It's like it's easier to get into AOS, Age of Sigmar, because you need fewer units, so it's cheaper in that way. Like both monetarily, like it's cheaper monetarily, more expensive in game. Because units are way more expensive.
So you think that's going to be a negative side of new players getting into this hobby, right?
I think that's very restrictive.
Yeah,
like if you're getting into like what we're talking about, Mechanicus.
Yeah,
is the most expensive army to collect because the miniatures are insanely pricey for what you get, and they're all horribly cheap in game because they're just not very good. So to make them more appealing, they have consistently been buffed by being made cheaper. So a tank just gets 10 points cheaper, 10 points cheaper, 10 points cheaper, but the money price is the same. So like price per point, they're the most expensive army to collect.
Okay, that's a equation I haven't been taught yet, which is I assume that really does decide what kind of army you are gonna pick up.
Yeah, Grey Knights are pretty good for like points per dollar because they're very elite. Because you're bringing like Terminators and these more elite Space Marines and tanks and stuff like that.
And there's only a few of us. You take one down, I'm pretty sure it's horrible. Like, no, we lost. No.
The Henry Cavill army,
Custodes, whoa,
is famously one of the cheapest armies to collect. Because you're bringing like 20 dudes and maybe a couple tanks. Yep. And that's it.
A bunch of Chads. Let's go.
Because every single dude is like as good or better than a character unit from any other army.
Just lore accurate. Let's go.
Yeah, they're so strong. Currently, they're not super good. Like, because the game is very lethal. So a guy with a good armor and a lot of health just dies. If you're not hiding, you just go away. So my main issue with the game of 40k right now is like how much stuff you bring to the table, the number of units you have, and how cheap everything is. And like you said with playing on tabletop, like the esportification of the game, everything has been very streamlined. I feel like a lot of rules from 9th have lost a flavor. 9th edition, I think, in terms of like flavor and codexes and stuff like that, was pretty much perfect. Everything felt unique in its own weird way. Now everything is kind of like washed together. It's not. It doesn't feel very flavorful. It's still pretty good. Like I like my Necrons, but they don't have. Oh, Chaos Knights had the greatest shit. Because like they're supposed to be these big fucking evil robot guys, who are so evil that they kind of like they conjure up storms wherever they go. They darken the sky. They cause dread and stuff like that.
Ooh, that's cool.
That is cool. And in 9th edition, it was like every turn you picked from it like an ever-evolving chart of a new buff that stacks on top of whatever you already had. So the state of the battlefield just became worse and worse for your opponent for every turn that passed. They don't have that anymore. Now it's like you get one thing turn 1 and then another thing turn 3, and that's it. They still work by scaring the enemy, like they modify their like morale and stuff like that, which
Right.
can be pretty like it can have an impact, but it's not as
Not as good as
customizable as
back
it was.
then. Yeah.
It was like a whole chart where like if they fail a dread test, you have their charge. So if they're 6 away from you, now they have to roll a 12 because they're scared of you. That's awesome.
Damn.
And you made people run away easier and stuff like that.
Damn, you put
It's
them on
like-
the time clock then. Like they
Right.
need to attack you now, or else everyone's gonna be too
Right.
freaking scared.
And
to
it was
attack.
very funny when playing against something like orcs who have horrible morale. And you modify they want to fight you, and they have terrible like leadership stats.
Great.
And you modify it. So when they charge you, they have to make a dread test, and then if they roll, I think if they roll lower than their leadership, and then you modify that roll by being big and scary, and then you just mess up their charges, and suddenly their entire army is standing in front of you, just like, we couldn't charge anything. Now we're gonna get fucking shot. That was sick. And like for Necrons, you had to pick like directives before the battle. Like you had to order, in this turn I get this buff and so on. You had to do that before battle to like mimic their like strategic mastermind or whatever, because they're robots.
Interesting.
Stuff like that just doesn't really exist anymore. It's all. A lot of armies have a thing where, for one turn you get one buff. Like Space Marines have one of the most popular detachments. They're called Gladius Task Force. So you get 3 like doctrines. So for one turn, everything can advance and charge. For one turn, everything can fall back, shoot, and charge. And for one turn, everything can advance and shoot. So you have to like
Oh.
pick your turn to get one of these, both like very applicable buffs. And Sisters of Battle have something like that now. Orcs have to pick a turn where they just go all out. They go crazy. They get a better
wah.
save and they hit harder. They do the wah.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's like, it's just all kind of the same in a weird way. And it makes the game easier to follow, which is why I think it's like the esportification of it, because everybody can refer to like a once per game army-wide buff as like their wah. Everybody knows what that is. It's like Space Wolves can do it. They have a character who can make everybody reroll their charges and hit rolls. That's like their wah.
So would you say like right now, like I think one of the things that is intimidating about the entire hobby is it's almost kind of like, on your perspective, it sounds like it doesn't have that detail back in like the older editions, but going on right now, it sounds like there's not really like a pickup game of like Warhammer. Like do you think there needs to be different formats to explore, like to kind of adhere to everyone? Like, here's a format for the casuals, kind of like with Magic and like Commander versus standard format. Like you think Games Workshop will design something like that? Like, okay, here's a format for you guys, and for you guys who are just getting into the game, that's not Kill Team. Here's a format for you guys where it's just like 500 points and games are an hour long.
They kind of have that.
Okay.
And they're reinventing it now. It's called Combat Patrol, which is like
Okay.
the smallest army size you can bring. It's 500 points. And you can buy these boxes that are called a Combat Patrol.
I've seen them, yeah.
So what they did is that basically they made the format Combat Patrol, and you could build whatever army you wanted within the points limit. Then for Age of Sigmar, they launched something called Spearhead, which is like their Combat Patrol, where you get what's in the box, and that formation or whatever is fixed. So you get the units that are in the Spearhead box, and that little army has its own unique rule set, and then you play with those against each other, and it's very well balanced in AOS. So they're kind of reworking Combat Patrol to be that. So you get what's in the box you buy, and then those units have like special data sheets, like their stats just for that game mode. So it's like a sized down version of 40k.
That sounds
a lot of
equivalent. That's kind of like getting a structure deck for like a card game. Like here you go, everything's in there, you can get started,
Right.
kind of deal.
So
Okay.
like you pick up, for instance, the Sisters of Battle one we looked at earlier, where you get the Canoness, which is like the general. You get 10 Battle Sisters, 5 Sacrosants with shields, and you get, I think it's 10 of the Flagellants, who are like the prisoners who have had their arms cut off and replaced with whips.
Whoa.
So you get this, that's like four units, and one of them is a character, and then those 4 units get data sheets that are unique from the main game, and certain rules are cut out, or it's fully integrated into the data sheet, stuff like that.
Okay.
And it's meant to be like a more casual pick up and play kind of thing, because you buy the box and then you have everything you need.
Okay.
Instead of looking at, okay, I have 500 points, what can I fit in there?
Okay.
Now it's like you have what's in the box, and it's all been balanced against each other. In that sense.
So for me, from what you've learned about me so far, where do you think I should start? Like, this is your chance to kind of like put me in, because I'll, obviously, again, I like Grey Knights. I like the Space Marine Salamanders. I don't know how to build a Salamander army because I'm a little confused on like, okay, I have to choose like the weapons. I don't know what box to buy because they're all painted blue because everyone loves the Ultramarines. So I'm just kind of like, am I allowed to paint those guys green? And then on the other side, I do want to look into Chaos and Xenos. So what I'm saying is like, well, what would you suggest for me? Just, this is your chance.
I mean, I think the Combat Patrol for Grey Knights is honestly pretty good.
And that could be brought into, and those units can be brought into an actual game outside combat control, because I just have to keep track of the points.
Yes, of course.
Okay, good to know.
You get the Dread Knight, which is like the big baby carrier, it's called, because the pilot is fully exposed on the front. It looks really silly, but that robot it's great. So you get 5 Strike Marines, which is just like a basic
Combat Patrol.
It's basically their basic Space Marine kind of. You get 5 of their Terminators.
Got 140. Oh my God, Jesus!
That's just what they cost.
I know. Keep going though. I'm looking at pictures.
And you get a Terminator Librarian. All of these are great units. The thing about Grey Knights is that they don't have a lot of units. It's a very sparse collection.
I'm fine with that. It's a good starter for me as a novice painter who's not painting on a production level.
Yeah, I think their Strike Squad box basically builds all of their troops.
Strike Squad.
That's like, there's a Purifier Squad, Purgation Squad, Interceptor Squad. I feel like all of these come from the same box, and they're just like different loadouts.
And I could, when the time comes, if I ever end up owning all of those, that's how I could tailor my army to reach whatever point maximum.
Yeah, because they all do different things, right?
Right.
So,
like the weapons they're holding is actually going to be what their stat line will be in my codex and stuff. Okay. See, I'm learning. I'm getting it.
Like an Interceptor Squad moves faster. Like they have double movement. They're the fast. They move fast and they hit you. Purgation and Purifier are like, I think Purgation is like the heavy weapon squad where everybody has a big fucking gun. But then they also cost more. And there's like Paladins, which are Terminators, but slightly better. Yeah, it's Grey Knights is a more like focused Space Marine faction in a sense, because there's not as many choices. Where if you look at Space Marines, the amount of units you can get is fucking nuts.
Oh my! I know. Yeah, that's why I get very overwhelmed when I see the Space Marine.
Space Marines is a very overwhelming faction to get into, just because there already exists a lot of shit, and there's only ever gonna be more. It's like the subscription service faction, because every time
they call them the poster boys, dude. They're just like
they're the poster boys.
Yeah,
they will always have support, and they will always be buffed if they're weak, because Games Workshop has a very strong interest in keeping them relevant.
I'm well aware of this. This is kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. Like, oh, look, more Blue Eyes White Dragon support. I'm sick of Blue Eyes, dude. God.
It's like Charizard in Pokemon. Always Charizard.
Oh, sure, dude. That is my big red flag for any Pokemon fan. One of my closest friends is a Charizard fan. I'm just like, It's just like
Well,
classic.
Charizard is cool.
Yeah, he is, but it's kind of
It's all right.
One thing they did though within the Pokemon card community is that they made Charizard just a card that's fun to own and collect. It is trash in gameplay, which I thought was a
Right.
good move, because if they made him meta, then his price would have been astronomically higher.
Right.
Good move.
But the thing with Space Marines is that it's unless you just want to be tournament tryhard, it's hard to because the tournament tryhard Space Marine players always have to have the latest whatever is the new broken thing, right?
I'm
so
out.
they have gigantic collections, but what's like the better advice for Space Marines is like you pick what your favorite chapter is, and then you go with stuff that's themed for that, right? So for you, that would be Space Marine, salamanders,
Yes. Primarch
So, like,
Vulcan. Yes.
flame units, and salamander specific units, and like Adrax Akatone is like a captain you can get. He's fucking cool. Eradicators all have melta guns.
Okay, so this is what I need to hear, because I was very confused of like, I could buy a Space Marine box, paint them green, but what they're holding is going to be their stat line. So if I want to make it a salamander style army, I should give them melta weapons, flamethrowers, and maybe like, obviously a couple. They could have guns, but like if I want to keep
I
the
mean,
theme
their
going.
salamanders also just have normal Marines. They don't
Right,
all
right.
have flamers.
Okay,
but
okay.
There are units with just flamers. What are they called? Where are they? They're new. They came up with the Leviathan ones. Infernus Squad. It's just 10
Ooh.
Marines with flamethrowers.
Oh.
And Eradicators are like the heavies in Space Marine 2 with just big melta guns.
Oh, nice. Okay. Like,
there's like
send me all these for educational purpose
there's
afterwards.
flamethrower tanks. There's dreadnoughts. Like
Yes.
they will still just have dreadnoughts and like troop transports and stuff like that.
Okay. Interesting.
But like you can go on the store and like press, I think Warhammer 40,000 Space Marines, and then just sort by salamanders, and you'll see like there's two salamander specific units, and they're both characters. It's Adrax Agatone and it's Vulcan Histan,
Ooh.
he's not the Vulcan,
No.
but he is named Vulcan.
Is that like son of Vulcan? Is that like?
I think Vulcan in that sense is like a title he's gotten because
Okay.
he's a captain.
Sweet.
Maybe he's chapter master. Maybe Adrax is the chapter master.
Well, he
I
will.
forget who.
Vulcan will return.
then-
yes.
And then everything else on that page is like generic Space Marine stuff that you can bring in any Space Marine army.
Okay. Sweet. So it's very splashable. It sounds like. Like.
Most like everything is painted Ultramarines on the store, but the only stuff that's like specifically Ultramarines is like named characters, like Calgar and
Lord
Gilliman,
Calgar, yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Calgar
Oh,
is a fucking unit, though.
Oh,
Like,
dude! In the game,
ult-
I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" I
Who
was
the
like,
fuck is this? And
I was like-
everyone else is like pogging, like, what the fuck? It's Calgar.
Oh my god! I thought the guy was just like a king that just sat on a throne or something like that, or some sort of like.
Nah,
Leonidas. I
man,
was
he's
like,
the chapter master.
I was like, good god,
He's out here working.
dude! And those guys with the bulwarks near him with the shields, I was like, I want to be those guys. Those guys are
The big
sick.
Trix Guard, they're fucking rad.
God damn.
It's like Ultramarines, if you want to run them, it's like they have a special librarian. They have Uriel Ventress, Calgar, and Gilliman. Those are like the 4 specific Ultramarine units you can get.
Oh, okay. And
Personally, I like if I ever were to play like I did start kind of a collection of Space Marines, and I painted them in Carcharodon colors with like a sub-chapter. That's Space Sharks.
wait, yeah, though those are those are related to salamanders as well, right? Like I remember Bricky talking about them, how like
No, they're connected to like their unknown founding, so it's not like known who their Primarch is, but they're, like,
okay.
They're like stealthy and stuff like that.
Aren't they
so
black
it's
and it's like black and blue colored, I think, or what?
they're
Like,
gray and black and white.
oh,
So like the color scheme of a great white shark, basically, right?
and they do aquatic stuff, like they're like, which is
No,
they don't.
no. They're an entire like void-based army. Like they don't have a home planet. They just are on spaceships. They sail the sea of space, right? And they hide in darkness, and that is they fight in complete silence. And they're all deathly pale. So it's like it's rumored that they are like from either the Night Lords or the Raven Guard, because those are both like stealthy warrior corpse white people. But it's not known who their gene seed is from.
Isn't there two? So what's this joke I hear about the two missing Primarchs? Like,
That's the thing that
yeah,
the second Legion and the 11th Legion are unknown. They're redacted.
right.
No one knows who the Primarchs are. No one knows what happened to the Legions.
I can't wait to find out. But like, I remember
We will never know.
But there's a meme saying like, how many Primarchs are there? And you're like 20,
Yeah.
and they're like, that's heresy. Get out.
Because at first there was 20 and now there's 18.
I know, that's what's so funny. Every time you say the 20,
the two redacted Primarchs did something so horrible that they were stricken from all records, and their Marines were mind wiped and given to the Ultramarines and Dark Angels.
Oh. The Dark Angels
the
are like sweet. Like,
no one will ever know what they did, but it was so horrible that even like Horus's betrayal is less horrible.
damn. So they're never going to release that data.
Because people still know about the Horus heresy. No one knows what
The
those
redacted.
two lost Primarchs did.
My God, the 2nd and 11th. That's gonna be fun when we find out. Okay.
I hope they never tell us, because it's gonna be lame. Like, there's no way it can be epic enough to warrant like complete erasure.
True. Is there a chaos? Is there a chaos legion that you would suggest at the same time that I could look into? Oh, the World Eaters seems pretty sick. The more you
World
talk,
Eaters
are
are great. Like, they're a very recent model line and release.
Okay.
Angron is such a sick model, and the
Okay.
playstyle is, you can either play them extremely onga bonga, just straight ahead, charge everything, turn one,
Nice.
but you can also play them more like the smart thing to do is to like move up and wait for your opponent to move out, and then you fucking kill them. And Angron coming back again like for free is such a fuck you to the opponent.
you just
they
send him
think-
out alone. What the heck?
It makes him completely disposable. So like, he's really expensive, but if he comes back just once, he will guaranteed kill whatever he touches, and then he'll just come back and maybe do it again.
Nice.
they're-
I just
they're a
like
lot of
the.
fun.
I just love the anger aspect. Like, I just want to kill.
He's so mad. Like, he's the maddest motherfucker in the world. Because if he isn't, he feels like unimaginable pain.
Damn, sounds like my dad. I think that's why
I just
like
love
this.
the origin story of his axe and sword. The axe spine grinder. Take 10 years to make a gigantic chain axe, and then he murders an entire planet with it as thanks. And the sword that he forged by beating a demon to death with a bar of iron.
Dude, that's why I kind of want to look into them more. I'm like,
He's so
nice.
fucking sick.
Like, anger. I'm so
Like, my favorite Chaos Space Marine Legion don't really have any unique models. It's Iron Warriors, because
heard of
they're
them,
just
yeah.
like, they're just angry, they're bitter, they're unappreciated. They're like the workhorse of the Imperium. They did all the dirty jobs no one wanted to, and they never heard a word of thanks. And then like finally the Chaos like horrors and stuff like that, they were like, aren't you sick of being nice all the time? Don't you just want to go ape shit? And so they did. It's just like,
That's all it took.
that's all it took. It's like, show some, tell a guy that he did a good job, and it's like, for the first time in his life, someone praised him.
They're like, we're on your side now, man. F the Imperium. Oh, okay.
He was sick of the Imperium. He was sick of everybody else getting like preferable treatment, especially his stupid brother Dorn.
Dude.
Because he's like, the Iron Warriors do like siege warfare, and the Imperial Fists, who are led by Dorn, they do like fortifications. So they're like the evil mirror of each other, right? The book I told you about before, Storm of Iron, is like, it's so good because it goes through like the methodical like siege warfare of a Space Marine Legion taking out an entire planet of Imperial Guard and fortresses,
Right.
like digging trenches, setting up their batteries, doing like dirty tricks. A great thing they do is that they take all their prisoners and they send them out, like they dress them up as chaos cultists with empty weapons, and they send them out over the minefields towards a big bastion.
God.
And so the guard on there, they see this, like these thousands and thousands of normal humans dressed in rags with guns, and they're like, "Oh, it's the cultists! They're all coming! Shoot them!" And they just bombard their own like POW allies.
No.
And way too late, they realized what they've done, and it just shatters morale. Meanwhile, all the Marines are like digging tunnels under, and they're like sapping the walls and stuff like that. It's fucking great. It's such a great book.
God. Okay, so let's go into that aspect now. Any content that you think I should consume, just books, videos, anything like that,
Shit.
or is there just too many to count? Just go where my heart says to go.
God. I mean, you've already seen the Bricky stuff. That's like very cursory.
Yeah,
But it's also a great overview.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about like Grey Knight's materials.
It doesn't
They
have to
have
be
a-
Grey Knights. Just anything that you would suggest a
Salamanders.
new guy like me would like enjoy, because I'm not in the mindset of I just want to consume everything about the 18th.
I think
it's like I like a good
checking out-
story. I like
Checking out some of the more general novels, like the edition novels, like
Okay.
Indomitus and Leviathan, which kind of tell the story as it's happening currently.
Okay,
I think that's a pretty good start.
sure.
It's going to be from the perspective of like mostly the Ultramarines, and then also a little
Right.
bit the villains. Indomitus has some Necron stuff,
Ooh,
and I don't know what if Leviathan tries to tell something from the Tyranid angle.
fair enough. Is there
It's-
a
it's-
faction or is there a faction or characters or anything like that you don't like least favorite? You sung a lot of praises right now, and like right now, is there one that you're just like, I don't like those guys because they're poorly designed, or like, oh, there's nothing there, or I don't know. You seem to have just a general respect for every single faction across the board.
I don't know who I would like less. It's like the least.
Yeah,
I like all the Chaos factions. Chaos is fucking great.
I'm
Imperium
I'm
is like
convinced, honestly. Like at first, I was just like,
Imperium-
how dare
no,
you
because-
go to Chaos, and then now I'm just like, okay, I get it.
because they're so fun, right?
Yeah.
It's like all these Primarchs fall to their own vice, and it's like, of course, Angron, the angriest man to ever live, would fall to Khorne, who's like the god of war and murder.
And fighting.
Blood for the blood god, skull for the skull throne.
Hell yeah.
It's like they all have their reasons.
Dude,
and
shout out to the Imperial Guard though. Woo!
Imperial Guard
Let's go.
are like very milquetoast, but also epic in a way, because it's just like it's normal men and women fighting the horrors of the galaxy in tanks with their little guns.
Yep.
And
Little
the
lasers.
ongoing meme with them is that I don't think I've ever met anyone who plays Imperial Guard who isn't in the army or has been in the army or wanted to be in the army. It's all just ex-army people.
Heck
Every
yeah.
single one.
Hell yeah. Isn't the average life of an Imperial Guard eight seconds? Isn't that what they said in the memes? Just because
There
they're
is a
so
book
expendable.
called something like that. I think it's called 13 Hours or something, because that is the average lifespan of an Imperial Guard once they're finished training or something.
God.
Well, because most of them die immediately, but then some make it out and they become a corporal or whatever.
Whoa.
I don't know. I think the faction I'm the least interested in narratively is probably the Eldar, just because they're elves. I don't really give a shit about elves in any setting. Unless it's the Drukhari, because they have just more going on. Like they have the gladiator, thrill seeker, torture, evil pirate thing
Interesting.
going on. Eldar are like weird, like wizards, but also weebs. in a sense. They're
Okay.
very samurai ninja, also magic,
Oh,
Jedi.
I know what you mean. So it's like honorable, like
Yeah,
philosophical.
Bushido. Like
Yeah.
their guns are literally called shuriken cannons.
Okay, that's okay.
They fire shurikens.
Wow.
The Tau are also they're just very underutilized. I feel
Tau Empire.
Tau Empire. They're
Space
kind of
weebs, blue aliens with hooves.
like they are the weeb faction because they are the Gundam army.
Right.
They're in big battle suits, but they're also fucking sick. And like the whole thing about being like for the greater good, and they conquer other species and like annex them, and they become part of the empire as a whole. It's all started out. They got a lot of critique in the beginning for being too goody goody, like they weren't evil at all. So it's kind of been retconned to that the leaders of this Tao society are kind of like brainwashing people, like with pheromones.
Pheromones. What the?
Yeah, their leader on Va got killed by an Imperial assassin, but no one knows that, so he's a hologram.
Oh, damn.
They have like a space pope who's just like he died way long ago. Now he's just a hologram.
Mm.
So part of the Tau stuff is that there's this guy called Farsight who leads his own like little offshoot society of Tau called the Farsight Enclaves, because he's like he's like rebelling against this whole the leaders who are like brainwashing people with the greater good. So he's like the guy he broke off from the mind wash, brainwash. So he's pretty cool. And there's like this whole thing, like the Tau are not very warp sensitive at all. They have very weak souls, so to speak.
Huh.
They don't have psychers. But this one guy, Farsight, they did like this series of books to progress the narrative, like when Angron came out, when World Eaters got their own codex, where one of them is about Farsight kind of falling to corn a little bit, like because he's like the one melee Tau. He has like a Necron sword and stuff like that.
Sick. Hell yeah.
He has a sword that steals like life energy. Like he's way older than he's supposed to be. Because when he kills things, he gets their lifespan or whatever. So because he's killing so many things in melee, he kind of got cornified just a little bit. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. So that was like a touch, like to show that the Tau are not incorruptible. They're not as connected to the warp, but they can still fall to chaos if the circumstances are right.
Interesting. Wait, what are your thoughts on the Imperial Knights? Because I remember
I like Knights.
I heard that the Imperial Knights aren't good for tabletop play. Like they just get like, destroyed easily.
Well, because they're very skew.
Okay. I just like how they look. I'm like, dude, that's a giant.
They're
goddamn
fucking
house.
cool.
I know.
And
like,
I have Chaos Knights. Knights are fucking sick.
God.
But what they are is an entire army of basically tanks.
Yeah.
And if you're fighting something that can deal with tanks, then you're gonna get fucked up. If you're fighting something that can't deal with tanks, the opponent's gonna get fucked up. So they're very skew no matter what you do. You can't really make a balanced knight army because everything is baseline a tank.
Damn.
The thing is, in the tabletop version of the game, Imperial Knights are much more incentivized to bring the big knights, the ones that are like 400 points apiece, because they have really good rules, and they can buff the little knights around them, the armigers they're called, which are like 140, 150 points. They're not as strong, but you can make them stronger with the big ones. For Chaos Knights, there's not really any synergy at all, and the big knights aren't super good. So instead, you're incentivized to run armies of basically all little ones called war dogs.
Oh man.
So instead of 3 big ones and some smalls, you're running like 13 little ones, which is great fun because the Chaos Little Knights war dogs are way better than the Imperial ones. Like, they have one that's pure melee. They have ones that are pure shooting. And it's just, they're so fucking fun. But it's also very, like, one-track mind. It's the running joke is that it's like cranking your hog. You're just like, it's just up.
Is that why your tagline on Discord says that?
Yeah, cranking hogs. Because when I went to the German tournament, I just brought hogs. Hogs and demons. Little knights are just hogs, and you're cranking it. You're just running at your opponent, and then whatever happens.
Oh my god, cranking is. Got it. Okay.
We crank our hog in this household.
God.
It's like, but Imperial Knights are fun because it's like these knightly households who have piloted these knights for centuries or millennia. They have super long names. They stand on ceremony. It's all very formal. And then Chaos Knights is that same thing, but it's like for Satan.
That's horrible. Like, wait, well, what god would they? Well, what chaos god are they following? Or it doesn't matter.
Any.
Really. Okay.
That's another great thing you could in ninth. You could give them marks. So you could make a knight of corn, and it would get like a corn buff, stuff like that.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it would be better against psychers, because corn fucking hates psychers.
No. Wait, that's what Grey Knights are. Damn it.
Yep. And Grey Knights hates demons.
That's true.
They hate chaos, so they just hate each other.
Mm.
What was I thinking? Yeah, but like Chaos Knights, it's like half and half. Some of them are run by like Dark Mechanicum, so they're like infused with demons. The other half are just like Renegade, so they're just not part of the Imperium, and they're in that sense they're traitors.
I see. Oh, okay.
One great story from the 9th Codex was one of the households. I forget what it was called. Like, not Halifax, but something like that. Were contacted by the Imperium and were just like, no. It's like, congratulations, you have been discovered. Please join the Imperium. You can't say no. And they're just like, fuck off. So every time the Imperium sends people to integrate it, they just fight them off. They just beat their ass with their knights.
My God.
And then, so now they're just like, they're renegade knights, because they're not a part of their planet refuses to become part of the Imperium.
Right.
So that's
Jesus, man.
God, that 9th, like, what happened was I started playing the game in like 2022, and then I think in spring or late winter they released like all the new Chaos Knight kits, like the War Dogs that are specific to Chaos, and a new big boy, and they made a box set with like either 2 or 4 War Dogs and 1 big boy and the Codex. I was like, I have to get this. This is too sick. God. I had to get it. And so it was like, okay, that's half an army.
God, man. I got to see pictures of your entire collection, man, because
that's a lot.
Dude, please send them all. Like, I always love seeing people's like collections. And
pro tip for people who are collecting a lot of these minis and need storage space.
Listen.
Go to IKEA. Just a second. I gotta go get something.
Love that place.
Oh, wait. It's right here. I bought some today, actually.
Sweet.
It's called the Harvmata. Harvmata. It's like a letterbox thing. It's a thing to store papers in. IKEA, but it is the perfect...
Harvmata. Yeah, it's like for the office. Harvmata. Right.
It is perfect for Warhammer storage.
Holy crap, it is.
Each section is like 3 inches tall, 2.5 inches tall. And if you flip the little trays around, they're metal. So if you magnetize the bottom of your minis, it's perfect for storage and transport. So I have like this sewing machine bag that perfectly fits one of these boxes in it. And that's how I transport my army.
God, That's the thing. Like, if you're playing Imperial Knights, it must be so hard to transport everything when you're going to a tourney.
Not so.
What?
My entire army fits in one of these boxes.
Wow.
Because you take out all but one of the trays, and then in like the bottom, that'd be 3/5 of the thing. That fits like a big boy knight. And you can have 3 side by side there if you need to. And then the top part, 2/5, fits the height of the small knights, so you can have 6 on there.
Jeez.
It perfectly fits 2,000 points of Chaos Knights.
Would you ever consider doing a tourney internationally?
Well, I have. I went to Germany.
Well, like further out, like flying out.
Like Oregon.
Oh, no, we're in my neck of the woods.
Would you ever consider, I don't know, Washington?
Coming to you? Dude, I would love to visit. You know that. I just don't have that kind of money.
I would consider it. So SoCal Open just happened, and I just had a visitor from California, and I've been talking about when to go visit them. So if I could like couple that with this big US tournament, that would be fun. I would love to try a US tournament. I think it's so different the way they play. Like the meta, the meta is weird in that it's very it's determined by geographics in a weird way, where no one pays attention to what is happening in Australia, and then suddenly the Australians will go to France and just nuke a tournament with some weird tech no one has ever thought about. Like they'll just do weird shit in isolation because no one's paying attention to it. It's very funny.
Dude, story of my life, man. It's like Japan's playing like this, US plays like this, and then someone out of nowhere is like, you guys haven't been paying attention to freaking Brazil, and all of a sudden it's like,
right.
How did this guy win? What the
The big team tournament that happens every year, WTC, took place in Belgium this year. I think it was Belgium. And France won both the singles event and the team tournament because they had one of their players had discovered this like obvious when you think about it, but like no one was doing it, which is that Black Templars, which is like an offshoot chapter of Space Marines that can bring unique units.
Right.
They're the only Space Marine chapter who have a unit of 20 people. Like 20 Marines in one unit. Which is insane.
What the heck?
He brought like 5 of that. So 100 Marines.
Wait, what?
With character support. And it's just so like you can't kill it. It's so many Marines. Almost nothing has the firepower or like punch to take out 20 Marines in one go. And then they just hit you back so hard.
He brought that. Is that a cheese tactic? He was just like, dude, no one knows this. Holy crap.
Basically, he's like,
oh my God. That's always
so
makes you
there's 20 guys in this, and you can give them what? And you can have 6 of them? So he brought 5 because I don't think you can afford 6. It's too expensive. So like he brought some cheap scoring trash and then 5 bricks of 20 Marines with support characters in them. And it's just nothing could touch it. He just walked forward and you can't kill them before they kill you.
Damn, even the orcs and Tyranids were like, what is this? Like, what the
Yeah, the orcs with their 20 boys, they're just looking at it like, the fuck? It was like the Black Tide or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fucking insane. And of course what happens is that he wins with that, and suddenly everybody I know is printing or buying like
Black Templars.
80 more infantry Space Marines to bring with their Black Templars.
God, that's the thing.
That's kind of another thing. That's kind of another thing I hate about 40K. And that's way less prevalent in something like Age of Sigmar. Is the meta chasing. It's this weird list just won a tournament, and suddenly all the tournament people I know are like, oh, I gotta get
Dude.
30 jump pack motherfuckers with power fists because that's the tech, that's the trick you gotta bring now.
Dude, I am going through that constantly with the One Piece card game. My favorite deck, I've been playing since day one, set one, right, 2 years ago. Finally got the most insane support like today, where people are buying up all the decks and everything like that. And now people like in like Japan, like people in Japan have always played the deck. Me, I played it because deep in my heart, it's like my favorite character. I know it front
Zoro?
and back. No, Blue Doflamingo. The evil guy, yeah. He's my favorite villain almost of all time. So I've been playing Blue Dofi for the longest time. You know, some people at my shop are like, "Oh, Blue Dofi, that's your thing." I'm like, "Hey, you must be excited for the new support." I'm like, "I am excited. I've already been practicing it." All of a sudden, I'm seeing all these Blue Dofi players come out the woodwork, and then there's all these YouTube videos. Oh, the definitive guide on how to play this deck, best deck in format, and all these people who never played the color blue are now playing blue, and I'm like, where were you guys? But that's the thing, everyone else was meta chasing, and I happened to be playing my favorite deck that became meta through support, and it doesn't make me mad. I'm glad my deck's getting more spotlight, but at the same time I'm like, just play what you want, man, because like black was dominating, red was dominating, and green and red is dominating, and I was in the corner getting my teeth kicked in by playing blue every single week. But like so there you go, like what you said, one guy wins a tourney with something, and then it's like, oh, the prices go up on everything. Oh, why is everything for Black Templar so expensive? Like, oh, what? This because they know,
and it's
pay to win. It's terrible.
It's aggravating. It's like, well, but it's also like that's why I kind of stay away from tournament 40K right now, because I know that I'm gonna have to fight this shit. Like I went to the Germany one, and some guy brought his. It was only 80 of the Marine guys instead of 100, right? But there was nothing I could do. I did not have the output to kill them, and I played as close to like a tie as I could, but it's like I couldn't. Because he could just move these bricks up, and there's nothing I can do about it. Like other Marine offshoots, they all have like weird, dirty, like too cheap units that are too efficient for what they do, or too durable. And I really don't like that part of 40K. Is the always be thinking in a competitive way, like. I have this army. What is the most cheap and efficient unit that I can just spam 3 of? Which is the limit. You can bring 3 of any unit unless it's
I'll keep that in mind.
Unless it's called something called battle line, which is like your troops. Then you can bring 6.
Okay.
And that's how that guy could bring 100 Marines, is because when you're Black Templars, those are battle line.
Oh, okay.
In Age of Sigmar, there's no rule of 3. You could bring as many of a unit as you want, and somehow it's not a problem. It's weird. I think it's because the units are more expensive. So
there's no exploits in Age of Sigmar, it sounds like. Or at least not yet.
People aren't really about like just spamming whatever is good. Some are, like the try-hard tournament people, but people are more like laid back and chill about it. There will always be a best thing in an army.
Oh yeah.
But Space Marine players are very, very bad at just hopping around. So like, okay, Black Templars 100 Marines, Black Templars is good. Oh, they just got nerfed. Blood Angels. Okay, I'm gonna be jump pack infantry Blood Angels. Oh, they got nerfed. Oh, I'm Dark Angels with Terminators. Actually, I've always been a Dark Angels fan.
We're like back. We're back. It's like, no, we're not, dude. You left.
The running joke is like, oh, I've always been a big fan of insert army. It's like the people who are like, oh, I've always been a Blood Angels fan.
God,
no, you're not. You just got 30 Death Company with Power Fists because they're way too cheap and you can spam them and they're very strong. And then they got changed and now they're all playing Dark Angels and it's got to be something else soon.
Are you saying that you're taking it easy on tournament play because there are too many sweats?
It's too sweaty.
Oh,
and it kind of speaks to the thing I said earlier about like the e-sportification of the whole thing. Like people are playing like they're on stream. It's like unless you're in the run for number one, I don't think people take it too seriously in a weird way.
Right. And that's another intimidating factor for new people.
It doesn't feel
where
like
it's
people
you
are
can
having fun at tournaments I go to anymore. Like they're too focused on winning at all cost, and that's no fun.
So tell me about this. What's the cost? What do you win at these tourneys? Like, what's your guys' pricing like?
It's usually like a gift card. I mean, it's nothing crazy. You get a trophy and some like store credit somewhere.
Really? That's it? Not in a bad way. I'm not saying that's it, as in like you should get more. But is there anything on the line in terms of like like what do you call is there tourney points? Like, is there worlds?
Yes, there's also that. There's the ITC, the touring circuit or whatever.
Yeah, and so what does a circuit award you if you get to that level, if I may?
Oh,
ask?
nothing.
Oh, wow.
Prestige of being like best in faction internationally.
I mean, that's pretty cool. Like, you don't get like
some tournaments give out golden tickets for like official Warhammer events and stuff like that.
Okay.
But we're not playing for like
cash prizes.
$100,000 cash prizes or anything. No. It's not big enough for that.
Okay, so that's so the reason I asked that is because that's what drives people to be sweaty. Is
God, I could only imagine if there were like money on the line, how bad it would be.
Yeah. So to bring it back in the hobby I'm in for like One Piece, right? At regional tourneys, when you win, you get a serialized card. It's a 1-to-1 copy card, and those cards go for, on average, $10,000, $15,000 if it's out of print now. So like last year's regional card is gone. There's only like 110 printed, and if you win, you get one. Me, I grinded and I didn't even get close to breaking top 32. It's hard, I give a lot of credit to people who could consistently be top 8. But there are dudes who are like got my 5th serial card, like that's how good they are. That's how good their team is, and I respect that, but I'm also very very envious, man. Like I just kind of look at myself like, damn, man, I've been playing for so long yet I yielded nothing. What this has done is that it's driven people to play meta and chase meta like you said, but on online regional tournaments where you play over webcam, people have been cheating very badly. Their hands disappear. Ooh, the right card comes into their hand at the right time. One dude used editing software in order to make it look like he was shuffling his deck when he really wasn't. He was stacking. So so it drove a lot of people to $10,000 card, like a $5,000 card, an invite to regional and an invite to national tournaments. That was what's on the line if you get top 8. So it drove so many people to cheat, because some people were kind of looking at the standings and being like, wait a minute, how's that guy winning with that deck? How did he get back-to-back wins with that deck? And it came out that he won, that he cheated, and that there's no repercussions. There was no banning of this guy. There was no punishment. The Bandai didn't do anything. They're just like, oh, he won. He cheated. He has 10 grand in his pocket now. We're not going to take it from him. He's just labeled as a cheater. So that's what kind of made me start to like lose my drive to keep playing. I'm not saying because people are cheating, but because people are trying so hard to chase after that top spot. Me, I just want the glory. Like, holy crap, I'm at the top, but
I would love it if Tournament 40K, if there's like different tiers of it, I guess. Like I understand that. Yeah,
that's why I was asking different formats. It's like, hey, I just want to play casually.
I know.
Fun.
Yeah, but I don't think I would play if there was like tournaments in Combat Patrol. I don't think I would play that because it's too small.
Okay.
Like I'm too used to the big scale stuff. I would like
3-hour games, man. That is nuts to me.
I don't mind that they're 3 hours because the time, honestly, it flies. It's so fast.
Do you physically train? Do you physically work out? You know what I mean? Like you?
No.
Oh, okay. Because I feel
you have to remember sitting down.
Wait, have you ever heard of an extreme standing mat? I got a gift for you, buddy.
I have heard of that.
I got a gift for you, buddy. You got to get one of those, man. Those feel so good to stand on.
Because what you'll do is that you'll stand up and you're looking at what's going on, and then 3 hours pass, and you've been standing like half bent over a table, and then you do that for a day. It's like 10 hours. It's like, You're dying.
Dude, I've stood
No,
in
but
line
but
for 3 hours, man. It's not
I
fun,
think
dude.
my universal fix to make 40k just a slightly better game right now would be to increase the cost of all units by 50%. Just make all
Huh.
armies a third smaller. That would
Interesting.
make the game a lot more bearable because there would just be less shit on the table. Because right now in an Age of Sigmar game, I'm bringing like 9 units. If I look at... Wait, I'm just going to pull up a Necron list here.
Because I've been seeing those videos of like we did a battle with 20,000 points and it took like a week. Like
Yeah.
it's so stupid.
That's because in fucking 40k, here's obeisance but good. That's 3 characters, 5. Okay, so 5 characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 non-characters, and that's 1,700 points. It's not even 2,000. It's like you get so much stuff in 40k. It's too many units, and you have to move them all. You have to shoot them all. You have to charge. You have to do missions. You have to everything. Where in fucking Sigmar, you have units that are half your army. Like they cost 900 points.
Is there tourneys
like-
for is there tourneys for Age of Sigmar?
There is, and I'm gonna attend some finally.
Oh, let's go,
There
dude.
aren't-
I thought you were taking a
aren't a-
break, man. He's back. There you go.
No, I'm doing Sigmar
Oh,
because
okay,
it's
okay.
just more fun. Because they got Skaven released, the little rat men. I fucking love them.
Oh yeah, tell me about the
no-
rats. Yeah. This is my first time hearing about the rats. Like I remember you saying like you've been crushing with them so far.
I'm fucking rat pilled. They're so fun. They're just like this race of chaos rat people
Okay.
who just want to eat. Like they're just the rats. They want to eat everything, right? They want to kill, murder, steal, ruin. They're like spread out into factions. So there's like soldier rats. There's like steampunk gun rats. There's Frankenstein and ninja rats. They're fucking awesome. And like one of the only, because in fantasy Warhammer it's obviously very Tolkien, most of it. So it's like there's elves, dwarves, orcs, blah 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 blah. Skaven rats are like a completely original concept for fantasy. It's like these maniacal rat people. They're just so much fun. So I like playing the gun rats with just cannons and rifles, and you shoot this shit out of your enemy. Shooting isn't really a thing in Sigmar unless you're Skaven, in which case you can make it your whole thing. Just bring endless amounts of cannons. Shoot people.
Interesting. Are there any psychers in Sigmar?
Well, there's wizards.
Wizards? Okay. So that's
They just have magic.
Oh.
What's fun is that demons are shared between Sigmar and 40k. So if you have a demons army in 40k, you can just play it in Sigmar,
Interesting.
and
But
the
you-
demons are the same.
But obviously nothing from Sigmar can be brought into into 40k or like what we have now.
Well, no, besides the demons.
Besides demons, right? Okay.
There are mentions in the books, like funny little mentions of some Skaven characters contacting like 40k Eldar and stuff like that.
Sweet. So silly.
Like opening warp rifts and talking to future elves. It's just like a little throw, because they're goofballs. All Skaven stories are just slapstick comedy.
So what you're saying is there's a chance. Yeah.
Everybody wants Skaven in 40k, and I
Dude.
don't. I mean, they'd fit so perfectly. That's why my Chaos Knights are Skaven themed.
Oh, dude, once they confirm that, you're in. You're just like, I know
Right.
what I'm playing, yeah.
Like I've given them all tails and made little like green gunk and green warp stones and put little rats on their bases and stuff like that.
Well,
So that was like,
what was your biggest paint project, or like what was like your hardest thing you've ever like invested time and like frustration in? Because it sounds like you're crushing like most of your armies, but like is there one you're just like that sucked?
well, the one I was most nervous about was the Silent King, the Necron King character, who's like on this floating dais with a Catan Star God at the top and these floating shields next to him. I followed a tutorial by like an
Let me see this thing.
X Games Workshop.
Jesus, he's got banners following him. What is this? Oh my goodness.
He's got like this big flowing cape. And he's got 2 guys on his floating throne, and
Yeah, I'm looking at this. What the?
just a massive project. And you want him to be good because he's like the centerpiece.
Right. And then there's this
And
thing called like new model syndrome. Like you send him out, and he just dies, and you just take it off the table. You're like, damn
I mean,
it.
of course. Most recently, the one I did was the big new rat Skaven god called Visick. Visick Scour was like this big prophet demon rat. Fucking incredible model. And I think he turned out pretty good. He's in the Hobby Lobby channel. Somewhere. Yeah, just above the lizard man. Just this big, huge rat fucker.
Dude, that Silent King thing's nuts. Okay, let me look up. Let me see.
Silent King was daunting. Because
I can imagine.
Necron stuff has to be like pristine. Because they're robots.
Oh, man. Jesus, man.
And you can like see the table with the 7,000 point army. You can see him in the middle of it and how big he is. He's He's fucking huge. But he was a lot of fun to paint, like doing the gradient on the horns and stuff like that.
How many hours?
Oh, I don't know. Many. A lot.
A lot of every time.
Like not keeping track at all.
Dude, I'm surprised you're not keeping track, man. I'm just curious of the numbers, like, because it sounds like you started painting 2020. You have like roughly more than 4 years under your belt. God, I wonder how many hours that all is together. Because I like the progression of skill as you get better, and it's just like look what jumping into the hobby 4 years has gotten you to. You know.
Yeah. I wish I had some more stuff that I could like pin down like this was a year later and this was a year later, so I could do like a timeline.
Yeah. Because that's kind of what I'm doing. I know for sure I'm able to log more or less where I'm starting because my first painted figures are D&D figures. And me, I just want to get competent enough to where when I do my Warhammer figures, I could be like, all right, they look good. Like, you know, like a part of me is that mindset of I do not want to disrespect anyone from the Imperium by painting a bad model. Like I want it to be like good. I want it to. This is my army, you know. Like
I'm all about disrespecting the Imperium. They don't deserve shit.
Oh, how dare you!
Because Imperium players think they're the best.
You're a monster. You're done. You're done.
Meanwhile, Necron players know we're the best. The galaxy is ours. Everyone else can fuck off and die. They were there first. It's theirs. You're just borrowing it.
Just get off my lawn is what someone said at my shop. They're like, that's how the Necrons. Like,
that is what they're waking up after a 60 million slumber. There's just like all these primitive species all fucking around, ruining their planets.
And they're like, all right. So what happened while I was gone? They did what? God damn it!
Playtime is over.
Yeah, God damn it! Get out of here.
I think The Infinite and the Divine is a great book to read, even if you don't really dig. Like, if you're not into Necrons, you will be, because it follows this, like, in like anime terms, they're like the Fujoshi dreams, like the yaoi couple, right?
Oh my god, I did not need that comparison.
Except they actually hate each other. They're not lovers.
Okay, nice.
They're called Tracen the Infinite and Oricon the Diviner. And it follows them like over 10,000 years. Solving like this riddle and trying to get a treasure.
And that's the thing. I'm more than willing to get into like the Xenos and like the chaos side of like researching all those factions. Obviously, I like the Imperium because of Space Marine 2 and the game, and just like any other casual walking into the game, it's like, oh, nice, Imperium's awesome. Yeah, we're humans. But I'm feeling like the Tyrann is. I just like that mindset of like, we don't have a goal. We're just hungry. Well, there's so many of you. It's like, that's what we do. Because when I played StarCraft, I only played Zergs.
Yeah.
I was
I mean,
Protoss and then Zergs and all that stuff. So I just
get
like
the
that.
appeal of the faction that is just like a force of nature,
Yeah.
but there's also just too little narrative around it. Like Necrons used to be that. Necrons used to be all mindless automatons piloted by these Catan star gods. And then it all got retconned, so they killed them, and like the nobility still has personalities, but they've all gone crazy. Like they're these like egomaniacal pharaoh guys, and some of them are more sane than others. And basically, Tracen is this one overlord who keeps his sanity by collecting things. That's why everybody loves him. He has an entire planet that's just a gallery. He collects not just things, but like moments. He has like rooms that are snapshots of real battles with the real people just frozen in place in time.
Oh, he's literally like me for real.
Yeah. So he goes into a room and it's just like it's Space Marines fighting something, and they're all just frozen in place. And like towards the end of the book, it goes a little like too much, I think. But he has these things called I think he called it a tesseract something, not a vault. He has these cubes that are basically, people like to refer to them as Pokeballs, where he just throws out like a squadron of Space Marines or a squadron of Mechanicus fighting Dark Eldar, stuff like that. He just has these platoons of warriors that are trapped in his little cubes.
Damn, dude, that's sick. Actually, that's awesome.
He's fucking great. He jumps around, steals people, sets others free. He's just a real shitter meme lord. Meanwhile, Oricon is this like the most powerful time wizard the Necrons have.
Time wizards.
He was the only person who foresaw the misfortune that the deal with the Catan would bring, that they would lose their souls and la la la, and he warned the king. No one listened. So he's really mad about that still.
Damn, sucks.
That sucks.
That's rough.
So they both find this relic, and they fight over it, and like so many Necrons are lost because of it, that the Necron government, basically the Triarch, like the direct servants of the Silent King, who are not locked to any dynasty, kind of sentence them to work together to solve the thing for the betterment of the entire species. And they hate each other. They constantly kill each other, but they're Necrons, so they don't die. They just like regrow or respawn elsewhere.
It's just a forever battle.
It's a forever battle.
Hell
like,
yeah.
It's just like buddy cop. Like they go together. They stop an orc invasion. They do all kinds of stupid shit on this one planet. What's interesting about it is that it all takes place on one planet, but in different time periods. So at first, Tracen is stealing the artifact from the planet, from some Eldar that live there. Then they come back and there's nothing. Then they come back and it's been settled by, it's like the early beginnings of an imperial settlement getting invaded by orcs. Then they come back later and their rescue mission from previous time is being remembered as Space Marines saving them. So there's like a commemorative mosaic of Tracen as a Space Marine.
What the hell?
Just because the Inquisition is like, we can't acknowledge that we were saved by aliens. We have to twist it so people think the Space Marines came to save them.
Right. Classic
so,
Imperium.
Like, the stuff they do like builds over time and consequences and la la la. It's a fucking awesome book. And Oricon and Tracen are just two old grumpy assholes.
Do you own all these books? Like how much do you own in terms of like war, other than figures and things you painted? Like how much Warhammer?
I have Storm of Iron. It got re-released recently. I have 3, because Necron's got 3 good novels within a very short span of time. They got Infinite and Divine, and then a year later they got Twice Dead King, which was 2 books.
God, how do you have the time to consume all this?
But that's just 4 books.
Oh,
That's just 4 novels. I think those are the. No, I also have. I haven't read it yet though. Fabius Bile, the omnibus, was like a Chaos Space Marine surgeon guy. Very evil. He clones himself because he keeps dying. He has like a genetic fault that makes him like get ill and die real fast. So he extends his lifespan by just making endless clones of himself and transferring his consciousness.
it reminds me of that guy from Invincible. I started watching Invincible, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
took me a while.
Took you long enough.
Yeah,
well,
I know.
season 3 is soon.
Woo!
Woo! What was I thinking?
Like, how many books you have? You had like 3, 4 of them. Like
So
four.
that's
4
five all told, but I haven't read the 5th yet.
Interesting. Okay. Are your future plans in terms of like your hobby, like, okay, other than the figures, like own all the books, own everything, or you're just
Nah.
going as you can, just whatever?
I'm just getting the books that seem interesting to me, and kind of a boon of not being a huge Space Marine fan is that most books are about Space Marines.
Yeah, the Horus Heresy. There's like so many logged novels about each. And
If
every,
I
like,
ever
department.
do the Horus Heresy, it's as audiobooks. There's no way I'm buying all those fucking novels.
Yeah, I saw someone.
Oh, did you see the chart?
Yeah, I saw a chart and like I saw a social media post of like, here's how like I found all these books for X amount of dollars at a flea market, and then I was looking, I was like, wait, that's just about the Horus Heresy, and they're like, yeah, and I was like, like, that's so freaking much.
The Horus Heresy novels are, I feel like either they just ended or they're about to end.
Goodness.
So
what you're hoping for in the future is more like more lore about the other side.
I want more novels about not Space Marines. Really,
I could agree with that. Yeah.
I want, even if it's like Custodes or Grey Knights or other Imperium factions, I'd be happy to see any of these factions explored more.
Hell yeah, Custodes just standing there for 100 years. Yeah.
If they,
dude,
do the what are they called? There's like a sub-faction of Custodes who are they
like the assassins.
No. There's the ones who guard like the Imperial prison, basically.
Ooh.
Like the forever dungeon. But
Ooh.
I wasn't thinking about them. There are Custodes who appear and guard seemingly regular people because they know they're going to be important later. Like they're going to become an important.
Oh,
admiral or
I remember
something.
Bricky's video said something like that,
Yeah.
where like they stay nearby because they're like, that's a future general. It's like, how do you know that? It's like, no.
How do you know? First of all, how do you know that? Second of all, I would love a book about that.
Yeah.
That would be fucking great.
Did freaking Gilliman have someone watching over him
Yeah.
as he was growing up? Like, oh yeah, that's that Custode. Like it.
Well, no, because there was no Custodes at that time.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he's a Primarch.
He was thrown to the winds and grew up on a planet somewhere. But I would love more books about. I would love a Chaos Knight book. There's none.
Wow.
They don't exist.
Damn, that's a massive imbalance.
Love more, like Iron Warriors, like just Chaos Legions, Xenos factions.
I bet as Warhammer goes on with the higher popularity, like just as long as I'm not saying like convincing new fans like me to not be Space Marine, but with enough popularity, are they good at listening to their fan base or no? What's like I don't even know what I'm asking. Kind of like if there's enough people that say, hey, we want more chaos, like do you think they'll listen?
No. I don't.
Damn.
Chaos is a very popular faction, and they kind of just keep screwing them on units. Like the codex is good, but they get very little new stuff. They kind of just keep losing models for some reason.
Losing them to the war. Like, oh no, they're gone. Oh no.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, there's too many Space Marine models, so we're taking these out. Oh, Chaos is also losing them, and it's like, well, Chaos had so little to begin with. Like Necron in terms of, I would always love more Necron novels because it's fascinating and there's so little official Necron lore that I would just love more of it.
I mean, who's the
Drukhari just
who's
got
in charge of like writing these stories?
well, many. It's like their own publishing company is called Black Library.
Okay.
It's like a whole. There's so many writers. I don't know if there's like one person in charge of the narrative.
That was my question. Like, do they have a writer's room where they're like, you
No.
know, like, hey,
No.
wow. So, hey, you could be the change, dude. Just
Like,
become a writer.
There
and
there
get in
was an interview with fuck is his name, Robert Rath, I think his name is, who wrote the Twice. I think he wrote Infinite Divine and Twice Dead King. Maybe that's two different writers. Doesn't really matter. The guy who wrote Infinite and the Divine was like, he got to invent a bunch of just Necron lore out of nothing because there was nothing.
Nice.
Just like units of measurement, different planets that were important to them, because there was nothing pre-established, and he was surprised by that as well. He was like asking, okay, is there anything I can't do? Is there anything that I have to mention that's important to the storyline? It's like, no, go crazy. You can just say whatever you want.
That's awesome. So, okay, that's mind-boggling to me, like, because with how giant the Warhammer galaxy is in the lore, I thought there was like a team of like 15 writers that are like, here's the plan. You guys write this. You guys write this. Like, so someone.
I think they might do that for the Horus Heresy stuff because they kind of treat Horus Heresy as like a historical kind of thing.
Okay, so that needs to be accurate, quote unquote.
That
like,
has to be consistent because it's like a
Right.
big series of 60 novels or something.
What the?
Where
I thought there was like 15. What the? Heck?
No. It's
Jesus.
660 plus. That's basically being handled like the MCU, right? Where everything has to be connected in some way and makes sense.
Okay.
Where, like I mentioned earlier, everything else is being written as in this weird, like, isolated anthology kind of style, where Twice Dead King mentions, not Twice Dead King, Infinite and Divine mentions a couple of events that happen in the established canon, like the Horus Heresy, but it also just makes up a bunch of other stuff that references nothing and is never referenced again. Because the setting is so big and so wide, like there's room for just inventing, here's 20 planets that were destroyed in this one battle, and it will never be relevant again.
But does Games Workshop have some sort of hand in the creation of those novels? Like, can they be like, hey, you guys need to write something about this one faction because we have
I mean,
on the way.
they hire somebody to write a blank novel.
Okay.
I guess.
Interesting.
I mean, I don't really know how that works. I don't think they just hire a writer and then they do whatever they want. I think it's like, we need a Gene Stealer book. Who should we get?
And like, I mean, they gotta approve it as well, because they read it and go, wait a minute. This is not what we were. Like, this is different from this one other book, man. Make it consistent, please. It's
like, surely there's like notes and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, references.
I think the writers are pretty free to do kind of whatever they want, unless it goes against established lore.
Hey, dude, be the change. I think this is your wheelhouse. So start making some Necron fan fiction.
God, there's so much,
dude.
But like, I would love to, all these underutilized Xenos factions. Orcs got some pretty good books recently. Drukhari just got one. I kind of want to read it.
I do like the Orcs. That's a fun, like, cheese army. Like,
they got a bunch of books recently, like
Hell
the Big
yeah.
Daka and stuff like that. That are supposed to be
the Big Daka.
The Big Daka.
It sounds like a gun shooting. Is that the point? It's a big
That is the point.
Really?
Hell
yeah.
That's what they call guns. Is Daka.
That's awesome, dude.
Because it goes Daka 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 Daka.
I got the automotive here, right? Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, orcs. Hell yeah. I'm
Very intuitive.
In time. I want that to be like my first, like, if I ever do a tourney in like a year or two, I want that to be my first tourney legion, or my first tourney thing I want to enter with is orcs. Like, F you. Taka taka.
They're great.
God,
That kind of reminded me of a great moment in, I think it's in the Infinite and Divine, where they're fighting orcs in space. and the orcs are just like floating around in space, fighting no problem, until somebody asks, "Can orcs breathe in space?" And then the orcs are like, "Wait, no, we can't," and then they all die.
What?
Because as long as they weren't aware that they couldn't, they just could, because they're orcs.
Dude. So if they choose, so what you're saying is this is the faction of if you truly believe it'll happen.
Well, that's the thing that kind of keeps them in check, right? Is that they're so powerful, but only when they're not aware of it. What keeps them in check is that they're too stupid to use their powers.
No, we need to fix that.
No, they will be unstoppable.
No,
That's kind of a thing they have to do with all factions. Like certain, it's like if all orcs united, they would overrun the galaxy. But they would never do that because they're too stupid and disorganized, and they infight. If all Necrons woke up and united, they would overrun the galaxy. But they won't do that because there's this big general who is like a civil war between the people who want to return to flesh and the people who think it's better to be a robot. It's like all these big, very dangerous factions have to be infighting all the time, otherwise they would overrun the setting. Kind of the same with the Imperium.
right.
If they weren't fighting chaos and each other all the time, they would be too powerful.
I do like that though. Like there isn't one dominant like faction versus
Everybody's being kept in check by their own ego and infighting and petty disputes and stuff like that.
So wait, what's stopping the Tyranids then?
That's the one I don't really get. Nothing.
Yeah, nothing
There's
stopping them.
very little stopping them, except
Interesting.
for like just pure like gunfire.
I mean, it's
Well,
working.
Necrons are extremely good at fighting Tyranids, specifically because they're not made of biomass. So there's like one half of the galaxy is basically being kept in check by Necrons.
Nice. Thank you. But
Appreciate it.
But yeah,
You're welcome.
But the very moment the Necrons are like, "Hey, we need to answer this call in the warp," the Tyranids are like, "Sweet, dude, we got it." You guys gonna
Another
come
thing
back.
keeping the Necrons in check is like they have not one but two curses. One is that they go insane over time. That's called the destroyer cults. Like they get obsessed with the thought of destroying all organic life. They just become like one track mind, kill everything.
Jeez.
The other is called the flare virus, and that was a curse bestowed by the one Catan that they fully killed, which drives them to become like kind of zombies. They start dressing up in skin and flesh and pretending to be alive. Like they start thinking they're still flesh.
That's awful. God, I did not need
So
to know.
like they grow like weird too long fingers, become hunched, like they travel underground to come up of the ground like fucking like zombies like in this shitty movie. And they drench, like they clothe themselves in the skin and flesh of their enemies.
This is terrible. Good. Oh.
They're called flayed ones. It is fucking cool. There is a great fan fiction of one of
Every single horrible thing you've told me, you're just like, this is cool.
This is fucking cool as shit. That's why 40K is so great. It's this insane shit.
It is, yeah.
Like living furniture. But yeah, I don't know if it's official or if it's just like a fun thing. I think someone made a fan fiction about one planet where there's a flayed one who just every day kills somebody and wears them. And everybody pretends that they're just a part of the scenery because they can't. They don't want to fight it. They don't want to upset the angry, sharp robot.
Oh, God.
And I think that's so neat.
God, you and your Necrons. Okay, I'm a fan. Like it's
I fucking love Necrons.
God. I mean, I assume like you're good friends with other like Necron players. Is there anything like that, or like no, with the community, you're just like, all right, everyone's pretty cool.
Everybody's pretty cool.
That's
but
good.
Necron players are cooler than everyone else.
Okay, I'll acknowledge that. We'll see what my experiences bring. It's if I keep losing, because my stupid bias when it comes to anything, when it comes to like competition, competitive, I get irritated and angrier if I keep losing against the same thing.
I think
And so if I lose to Necrons constantly, I'm gonna be like, I freaking hate Necrons. I always lose
Necrons
to
are very
them.
strong right now, not because they kill a lot, but because they can play a very uninteractive game. Like they could just teleport around.
No.
I don't know if in Magic terms if that is what's called control. It's like
That's kind of
like
control.
they manipulate the battlefield more than they engage with it.
I'd say that's more of starving. It's kind of like, hey,
Maybe.
I'm not gonna let you, for like card game terms. It's like, hey, I'm not gonna let you do what you want to do, but I'm not gonna make it very
Yeah.
hard for you to kill me, and eventually
Right.
you're gonna run out of steam, and I'm just gonna drive a knife into you. And
Yeah,
like,
'cause
I've lost like that
basically-
a lot. It's
Basically, what they can do is like they have this thing called a monolith. It's a huge pyramid that's also a tank, and it can teleport units to it and from it.
cool.
And they
It's
have
like
a detachment
Protoss.
that lets you remove 4 units every turn and just teleport them. So you can just bring in like your entire army on one side of the table, blast the enemy, bring over a bunch of infantry, and then next turn you do it to the other side. So if you're playing against world eaters who want to charge you, you can just stay outside of charge range, blast them, and then next turn you're somewhere else. It's like they're just running after you, and there's nothing.
That's frustrating.
That's really frustrating, but for me
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Like how you can't get me, Like, God, stay still, dude.
Fucking stop moving!
Stop moving so I can hit you.
But if you do actually touch them, then they can't teleport anymore, and it's just like, oh fuck. Now, now we're here, I guess.
Damn, man. Damn. So we're at 3 hours. Anything else you want to say? Because I'm pretty invested. Like, I'll let you know my journey if anything goes on. If
Yeah, I wanna
play,
hear.
if I play. Yeah. I'm just trying to work on my paint skills. I want to get better at that. So get black paint, research
Right.
what units for Grey Knights, find units that that kind of like, you get some Space Marines, paint them as salamanders with some flame units, and there's my salamander army. Obviously, this all won't be in the next few months. This is gonna be in time. I gotta stop being on strike first. I need some funding, man.
Oh yeah, you're striking.
Dude, it's pretty nice.
You and your fellow Gene Stealer cults, solidarity,
dude, that
working
one,
man.
for real, I might look into that one more than like the salamanders now. Like, wait,
They're also an extremely tricksy army.
it's like you're telling me that there's a faction of working men that are just wanting to overthrow. Like that's
Right.
cool. That's awesome.
And that's what I love about them, because it's just like people on dirt bikes with pickaxes and hammers.
Please tell me that there's a forklift. Is there someone forklift certified?
Sadly, there's no forklift, but
Oh,
I think
dude.
they should add that.
Dude, a forklift tank. Like, let's pick anything up.
I mean, you could absolutely just buy like little matchbox forklift things and put them on the right size base and say that's your truck or whatever.
Yeah,
That would totally
how much
fit the aesthetic.
modifying your armies is allowed in terms of the image, just as long as it's been set.
As long as it can't be confused for something else and it's roughly the same size, people are usually pretty fine with it.
right, because
Even at big tournaments, it's like if this is obviously supposed to be X and it's the same size, then nobody cares.
right, but you could paint it in a color scheme of like, hey, look, it looks like a construction
Yeah.
tractor. Like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
hilarious. Yeah,
There's
Okay.
plenty of people who have taken like Skaven units from Age of Sigmar and made a full like Gene Stealer cults armies out of that. So like it's instead of working men, it's working rats.
Nice.
So they just all have rat heads. It's like that's fine, and like you bring over these weird fantasy tanks. You just paint them to look the right way, and you say what they are, and as long as there's nothing else that looks like, then it's fine.
Nice. So, okay, so I like how they do allow some sort of creativity and all that stuff. Like, just as long as you obviously say this is
Oh,
an,
yeah, yeah,
an
yeah.
Inquisitor, this is obviously this character.
The only times it's an issue if it's like proxy, like unofficial models, and you're at an official Games Workshop.
I hear
tournament.
about that a lot. I hear about people saying,
They
like, yeah,
they
that's-
don't run a lot of tournaments, so it's almost never an issue. But if you're like 3D printing your army, then obviously you can't go to the people who make the real models and be like, "Here's my army."
I mean, if you paint it well enough, will they notice, or do you guys have like deck checks?
I
Where
think
it's like we have an inspector, like oh damn.
I don't know how closely they inspect it, but there's no reason to risk it.
True.
Plus, the models are fucking beautiful. I don't understand people who want to print. I think it's so fun. Well, I understand that it's cheaper.
It's a money thing, and I get
It's
that.
obviously a money thing, and it's also
yeah.
like a quicker way to get the new best unit and stuff like that.
Right. It
But
could
I
be
find-
the it
I
could be the
find
mindset.
so much- I find so much joy in putting them together and painting it. I love building them. I love painting them. I hate doing bases though. Fuck. Like paint this a whole unit, and it's like, oh fuck, they have to stand on something. God damn it.
Yeah, I saw that you did that dirt method. Is that where you put glue and you just throw dirt and it's like, hey, look, he's standing on dirt? Or like, how do you like to do bases?
Well, for my Necrons, what I've done is just make them black and then dry brush some gray over it, so it looks like they're standing like charred stone.
Mm.
That's like really easy and quick. For my Skaven, I'm doing like a dirt texture, just making it brown, putting a little bit of stone on it. And then for my newest project, which is like a skeleton army, I have this I forget what the company is called. It's called something creative, like Area Terrain or something. Just these little bags of pre-made mix of like little tufts and stone and gravel, and it just looks like
it's like for dioramas or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly what it is.
For sure.
And so you can just put some of that on the ground, and it looks like they're standing on like a tundra or whatever.
Right. Ooh, do you have a diorama of all your figures, or like do you have any like display?
I sadly don't have a display board.
Oh, dude, like
I have been thinking about making one for my Chaos Knights with like Skaven working on them and stuff. I know how I would do it. It's just a huge undertaking.
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother can of worms, and you're still painting and putting things together. God, man, this. Well, talking to someone like you that's in the trenches is very fascinating for me, because I always think like, oh, I get too much into my hobbies, and I'm like, no, you're into your hobbies, my God. Then again, I'm all over the place.
I'm so deep in the 40k trenches that I'm working my way out into different trenches, the AOS trenches.
Oh my God.
I want to try this trench for a couple months, and then I can go back.
My wifey was she wasn't happy, but she was kind of like, oh, you're trying to get into this, not in this form of like, I don't like that, is the form of, this is hobby number 5 for me that I'm like jumping into, because I'm trying to get away from One Piece, because I'm like, I had my fun, like it's too much of a time investment to really grind. And my weekends are taken. I got into archery, and I think that's healthy for me, because it's very turn your brain off and hit the target. And on top of that,
to do archery.
It's fun. I'll tell you this quick story. I made like a recent blunder last week. I haven't shot since July, and so when I went there and had time to shoot, we're shooting against something that's kind of soft, like hay bales, kind of. It's a very like thick, like soft material for like packing like materials, but that's because it's easy to pull the arrows out, and it's held together by wood. And they have signs that says, please don't hit the wood, because the wood ruins the frames and it's hard to pull your arrow out. And the funny thing is, when you shoot your arrow and it hits the wood, everyone hears it. It's like the loudest knocking sound ever. And I hit one of my first sets of arrows. I was hitting pretty well at full range at like 40 yards, and I was like, nice, okay, I still have it. The second round, I shoot my arrow, it hits the wood, and everyone hears it, and I'm just like, no one says anything. It's just embarrassing. Second arrow goes out, I hit the wood again, and then I turn around and kind of like put my bow down, as in like, I think I should stop shooting. And one of the instructors there was like, you need to move your target forward closer, please. And I'm just like, sorry. I felt so ashamed. I was just like, God. But then, they were like laughing, but at the same time they're like, if you can't handle full range, move it closer and get better there. And I was like, yeah, like, I'm sorry. And then they watched me shoot at half range, and they're like, you're doing really good at half range. Like, your grouping is perfect. And I was like, yeah, I know, I feel off shooting full. And they're like, oh, you'll get there. But in my mind, I'm just like laughing to myself, just because I'm like, oh god, everyone knows my mistakes and everyone hears it, and I'm just like, damn it, quit looking at me, because you can't be like, oh, that wasn't me, because everyone hears the arrow going into the piece of wood. It's the loudest thing ever, dude. But yeah,
Good shit.
yeah, dude, thank you, man. I'll keep you up to date on how far I jump into it and all that stuff, dude.
So when do you want to do part 2 of this?
I would love to do. No, I'm down. So I wanted to ask that, like a part 2 of like what I've done so far. You know, you could tell me about like your tournament. He didn't really go into much of like. Obviously, we didn't want to get into too much of like the mechanics of how you play and tournaments, stuff like that. But I do want to know like your career in like your playing and everything like that. That's
Yeah.
dude, because like what 4-day tourney, I'm just like, I want to hear like every match, like dressed down, like what happened and stuff like that. And if you ever get streamed, like I want to know that as well, like because I want to see you. But yeah, like I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Like that's probably gonna be in a couple months time.
Sure.
Hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Hell yeah, brother.
Brother. Wait, you're not my brother.
Brother, please.
my leg, it's gone. It's like, stand up, brother.
Stand up, brother.
That made me laugh so hard during the banner scene. I was so like happy, but that's like, stand up, brother. I can't. My leg is gone. No. And then
Shut up, brother.
And then seconds later you hear, Andres is dead. I'm just like, oh no.
No.
The guy that lost his leg's dead. No.
No. That guy.
Every time a Space Marine dies, I'm sad. I'm like, that was one of them. My brother.
My brother.
That was dude. I literally have a brother. When you said brother, I was like, God damn it! No, that's not what I.
Brother.
This is stupid. Well, what do Necrons call each other?
Asshole. I don't know.
See, they're not brothers. See, we're better. Dude.
My love.
My
Oh, they all hate each other because the only Necrons who have any like, I don't know, consciousness, are all like the weird nobles. So they're all really like. They hate each other, making fun of each other. They all just belittle and mock.
Hello, fellow Necron. Shut up.
Shut the fuck up.
That's how they talk to each other. Hello, fellow Tyranid. Hello, Tyranid. They're just trying to blend in.
Yeah.
God, hell yeah, dude.